Chapter 1051. Mrs. Luo was a smart person. They're all good people. They're not idle people. They're especially hardworking. As long as there's work to do, it's fine. Young people can't always stay in the village like us, right? Luo Yiqing asked awkwardly. What's their education level? They're all high school graduates. Mrs. Luo could tell. Is it difficult? Luo Yiqing was about to say something when Tanghua interrupted. Yiqing, isn't the company recruiting technicians? Let the young people in the village come. They can learn these skills after training for a period of time. Young people are fast, smart, and flexible. They're not bad after graduating from high school. They can read, control some equipment, and use computers. After training for a period of time, it'll be great if they're from our own village. She looked at Mrs. Luo and said, But Mom, I have to say first, the people who come must be willing to work and learn. Mrs. Luo nodded quickly. Yes, they're from our own village. Don't worry. I also know that with their culture, they definitely can't sit in the office. It's really good to be a technician. Don't worry, Yiqing. These young people are quite good. The young people just want to come out and see. Yes, Mom is right. Besides, they're still young and learn everything quickly. They can also improve their abilities while working. Their education level is also good. Luo Yiqing was persuaded. If that was the case, it was fine as long as this group of people were not idle. He thought for a moment and said, Are they the young people who often build houses for people? Yes, it's them, Mrs. Luo said quickly. Luo Yiqing was even more relieved. These people were indeed very good. There was no problem with their character. Okay, Mom, call them over. Anyway, we have to recruit people and train them again. I'll find a few familiar people and teach them. Tanghua narrowed her eyes and said, Mom, I remember there are a few young girls in the village who graduated from high school. I heard you say some time ago that they have to go out to work in the factory, right? Yes, Mrs. Luo said. Why, Xiaoguo, do you have any ideas? Isn't entering the factory at such a young age a waste of time? Tanghua chuckled. The system felt a chill run down its spine. How many people was the host trying to rope in? What a terrifying and boring woman. Let them come to our company. Luo Yiqing and Mother Luo both looked at Tanghua in confusion. Yiqing, the girls in the village are outstanding, good-looking, and have nice voices. They are also good at talking and have quick reflexes. Don't you think it's a good idea to let them work in the company as customer service? Luo Yiqing suddenly felt that it was possible. He had seen those girls before. She was about 17 or 18 years old. She was very pretty and her voice was just like what Tanghua said, very pleasant. She also had a sweet mouth. Even if she didn't use much makeup, her skin was still very good. If she were to dress up a little, she would be even prettier than the city girls. The only downside was that her hands were ugly. After all, rural girls were not valued and had to work. However, as a customer service employee, they didn't need to be good-looking. They just needed to have a good voice, good speech, and quick reflexes. It wasn't easy to find a customer service employee in the city. After all, the salary of a customer service employee was relatively low. They had high turnover and often resigned. It was very troublesome. However, it was different if they were from his village. As long as they had the ability, his company would always be there and they could continue to work. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Fastware, Supporting Female Lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D, Gu, Noo, Excerpt Noo, Time Free 05, Read 002, Peak. Chapter 1052. With less liquidity, the company's losses would also be reduced. They're all girls who have studied in high school, so their Mandarin won't be too bad. Tanghua continued, moreover, it can also be considered as giving these girls another path. While working, they can also study in their free time. It's much more promising than working in a factory. Luo Village's patriarchal ideology was particularly serious. Unless the family especially doted on the daughter, they would not send the girl to college. Under normal circumstances, they would only send the girl to finish high school and then let her go out to work or introduce a man to her for marriage. Tanghua thought that if she just moved her mouth, when the time came, Luo Yiqing would calculate the pros and cons and would definitely arrange it well. She wouldn't need to care about a fart. Anyway, Luo Yiqing's ability was strong, so she would definitely be able to do it. Thinking about it was particularly good. With Luo Village's mother's temperament, she would definitely pass today's proposal to the village. It's really good. System. Speechless. Luo Village's mother only nodded. Her heart was particularly warm. This daughter-in-law was really too thoughtful. Their Luo family could have such a daughter-in-law. It was really a great blessing. Luo Yiqing also felt that Tangwa's proposal was good. She let Luo Village's mother tell the villagers to come early to receive the training. Originally, the technical staff and customer service staff had to receive a certain amount of training before they went to work. Of course, they also had to recruit some experienced people to support them. As long as they were willing to learn, it wouldn't take long for there to be no problems. They were all from the same village. He also hoped that these villagers who had helped him before could live well. While working and learning, maybe they could take on other positions in the company in the future. Thinking about it, Luo Yiqing felt that it was a good idea. She discussed this matter with the other shareholders. In fact, it was just a matter of notifying them. After all, Tangwa held the majority of the company's shares. As long as Tangwa agreed, there would basically be no problems. They also sighed. The Tang family's daughter was really generous. She actually used so much money to open a company for Luo Yiqing. Moreover, he didn't intervene much in the company's affairs and relied on Luo Yiqing to make the decisions. Those who followed Luo Yiqing around would often say to Luo Yiqing enviously, "Yiqing, you're so lucky. He actually married such a good wife." She supported his career and did not interfere. Every time he suggested an idea, it was very important to them. After the problem was solved, he retreated behind the scenes. Obviously, he didn't intend to intervene. It could be said that he gave Luo Yiqing a lot of respect. Who wouldn't be envious of such a wife? Whenever this happened, Luo Yiqing would smile and feel warm in her heart. Yes, it was indeed his fortune to have met Tangwa. In this world, there was probably no one who supported his career and appreciated his talent more than Tangwa. Even Qian Beibei, whom he loved deeply and could not forget, could not compare with Tangwa in this aspect. This woman, even if he did not fall in love with her, he still could not ignore her charm. Not long after, a few young men and women from Luo Village arrived. The company had also hired someone who was familiar with training them. Next, they would have to undergo half a month of training before they officially started working. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. When Tangwa thought of these young people who did not have a place to live, she suggested to Luo Yiqing, "Why don't we rent a few houses and divide them into employee dormitories? Don't be biased. All the employees of the company can live in the dormitories. The most important thing is that they live in a place that is closest to the company." Baigio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Fastware. Supporting female lead. Calm Down Claw Book Room O1D. Gu. Noo. Section Noo. Time Free 05. Read 002. Peak. Chapter 1053. You don't have to squeeze in the car. It's much more convenient. Basically, there won't be any lateness or other troubles. Luo Yiqing thought that it made sense, although it seemed to be a huge expense. However, after his company was established, the expenses of the staff's dormitory would only be a small part of it. After discussing it, he asked someone to rent 2 houses near the company. Each house had 2 to 4 simple beds. It could be considered a place for the company's staff to stay. As for the important members of the company, they lived in separate rooms. Therefore, they did not object to his approach at all. Luo Yiqing saw that the company's members' spirits were getting better and better. They were very motivated in everything they did. He felt that the previous preparations and sacrifices were worth it, especially the young men and women from the village. They seemed to have seized an opportunity and worked hard every day. After work, he actually saw a few girls reading books. One day, he couldn't help but ask them what books they were reading. He didn't expect that they were actually reading books for the college entrance examination, as well as some professional knowledge books that were needed for their current profession. Moreover, they told him that these books were bought with their first month's salary. Looking at the girls eager to learn, Luo Yiqing seemed to understand something. In fact, these girls in the village wanted to go to college. It was just that their families didn't provide for them, or they thought that it was the same whether girls went to college or not. They even thought that girls shouldn't read too much. It was useless to read too much. It's Sister Xiaogua who said that we are still young and have plenty of opportunities. Even if we don't take the college entrance examination and go to college, we can still take the college entrance examination by ourselves after work. Luo Yiqing didn't expect that Tanghua was the one who said this. He couldn't help but ask, "She hasn't come to the company recently. When did she tell you?" "Sister Xiaogua often comes to our dormitory to play. She asked us if we were used to it. When we talked about not taking the college entrance examination, she suggested this. Moreover, she also said that the high school diploma is very low now. We can't be customer service for the rest of our lives. We have to find a way out for ourselves. We think that Sister Xiaogua is right. Girls should read more books. These books were all bought for us by Sister Xiaogua. There's also a book on how to be a qualified and not annoying customer service representative. Sister Xiaogua helped us pick it out." Unconsciously, Luo Yiqing knew that Tanghua had occupied a very important position in the hearts of these girls. It should be said that unknowingly, Tanghua's existence had seeped into everyone in his life. Almost all the people he knew, the people who were familiar with him, the whole Luo village, and his colleagues, whether it was the current company or the former company, all of them only had one word to describe Tanghua: good. "Then you guys study hard. Xiaogua is right. If you want to live a better life in the city, you have to work harder and learn more. Education is not the most important thing, but it is the most important stepping stone." We think so too. Later on, he found that the young men were also reading books in their free time. This time, they were not reading self-examination books, but some technical professional books. He couldn't help but nod. They were all young men who were eager to learn. As long as they were willing to learn and do, the company would definitely do better and better. He was still a little curious, so he asked, "Don't tell me that these professional books were also recommended to you by Xiaogua?" He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. He wanted to follow advanced reading literature on WeChat, talk about life, and find confidence. Peak. Chapter 1054. That's right, President Luo. This was really recommended to us by Sister Xiaogua. After they came to the company, they no longer called Luo Yiqing Big Brother Yiqing. Instead, they called him President Luo, which seemed more formal. Sister Xiaogua said that if you don't learn, you won't learn, and if you don't learn, you won't learn. Our grades aren't good, so we won't be like those people over there, going to take the self-examination or something. With our brains, we definitely won't be able to pass the exam. We can't calm down to read those books, but we feel more interested in books about machinery and computer technology. Sister Xiaogua also said that interest is the best teacher. Since we are interested in learning technology, we will buy books in this area to study. Finally, according to our strengths, Sister Xiaogua recommended books to us. We also plan to save some money and buy computers to improve our skills in the future. Luo Yiqing looked at these young men and called her Sister Xiaogua affectionately. They had known each other since they were young, although they hadn't seen each other for many years. But no matter what, they were more familiar with each other than Tanghua, right? But now, he thought that if these young men were to choose, they would probably choose Tanghua. Thinking of this possibility, he shook his head and laughed. Xiaogua was indeed a very charming girl. Most importantly, she was actually leading them on the right path. What she said wasn't profound, but it was very realistic. If a person wanted to live a better life in this world, they had to keep learning, no matter which aspect it was. They were still very young, so they really couldn't do these low-level jobs for the rest of their lives. Only by improving one's abilities could one's value be raised and one's life be better. From their performance, it could be seen that these young girls and young men were not willing to live numbly at the bottom. Even though the tasks every day were very heavy, they were still willing to squeeze out some time to rest and improve their abilities. The other members of the company watched the young men and young women from Luo village for a while and were very satisfied. These young people were really different from some of the people in the city. They were down to earth, willing to work, and did not shirk their responsibilities. If there was really a problem, the first thing to think about was how to solve the problem and not push the blame to others. When they were free, the people in the company who were familiar with Luo Yiqing couldn't help but ask him, "Yiqing, where did you find these treasures?" Other than their education level being a little low, Their abilities are really too strong. Moreover, he also saw that these young people were using their free time to learn skills and take college entrance exams. They were not sloppy in their work either. Wasn't that a treasure? Those customers responded to them that their company's technical staff and customer service girls were very good. The technical staff worked seriously, and the customer service girl had a good attitude, was patient, and had a pleasant voice. No matter how many questions were asked, she wouldn't get impatient. It was also because of this that their business had improved a lot. They're all from the same village as me. Xiaogua has a lot to do with their changes. The managers were curious. Is it because of Miss Tang? They were still more willing to address Tanghua as Miss Tang. Calling her Madame Luo was too distant, and calling her sister Tanghua was not too close. It was just right to call her Miss Tang.
Yes.
Luo Yiqing shared the fact that Tanghua had led these young people on the path of learning. Everyone sighed. It was hard to imagine that Miss Tang's charm was so great that this group of young people, who just happened to be at the age of playing, could calm down and study. They were also working so hard. Chapter 1055. Xiaogua told them that there is a price to pay for learning. If they don't work hard, they won't even have the capital to learn. Isn't that very reasonable? The management staff said. He suddenly remembered that he hadn't learned for a long time. Should he recharge or something? Unknowingly, Tanghua had influenced countless people. Luo Yiqing didn't know what kind of changes these influences would bring to him. He only saw that the company was getting better and better. At this rate, he would be able to recoup all the investment in less than half a year. Tanghua was very happy to see the company getting better and better. The system silently stood at the side and didn't speak for a long time. Host, you asked these young people to study hard. Do you want more people to help you earn money in the future? Tongzi, you've become so smart. The system wanted to throw it. Smart? Not at all, okay? He had only just figured it out. Isn't it good for everyone to become better and live happily in this world? It's quite good. Some time ago, you encouraged Luo family's eldest sister to enroll in makeup and beauty classes. In just half a month, Luo family's eldest sister's taste has improved a little. You encouraged Mother Luo to enroll in classes. Old Madam was very happy. She was originally a smart person. Now that Luo Yiqing started a company, you tricked Mother Luo into learning etiquette and so on, saying that she would attend business parties in the future. If you don't understand these things, you'll be laughed at easily. Mother Luo became serious and didn't feel bad about the money. She studied seriously, and now it's already a half-finished product. She doesn't wear gold earrings and gold bracelets anymore. The gold bracelets have become jade bracelets. Her taste has improved, and the way she speaks is also different. The system took a deep breath. Host, why is this? Isn't this preparing for the future? Luo Yiqing's company will become big sooner or later. Even without my involvement, many years later, the Luo family will stand at the level of the upper class. Of course, I'm helping him take care of his mother and eldest sister in advance. I don't want to make a fool of myself in the future, Tanghua replied with a smile. The system muttered, Qian Beibei's family, in this city, can only be considered a well-off family. Host, you're harboring evil intentions. It was not enough to win the favor of all the people around Luo Yiqing. He also had to improve the taste of Luo Mu and the eldest sister of the Luo family so that they could adapt to the upper class as soon as possible. In the future, when Qian Beibei marries into a rich and powerful family, she will definitely suffer. The host was as sinister as ever. Don't think that the Luo family will have an easy time just because you're rich. When the time comes, Luo Yiqing will protect Qian Beibei. Luo family's eldest sister and mother are not to be trifled with. This was not the past. If it were not for Tanghua, who was a good daughter-in-law, Mother Luo might have tolerated Qian Beibei because she loved her son. However, his host was too qualified as a daughter-in-law. Mother Luo was used to eating exotic delicacies, so how could she swallow rice with some chaff? But everyone only knew that the host was good. The host did not do anything except improve their standard of living and bring them to broaden their horizons. He raised their appetites. He was good to them in every way and did not make any mistakes. However, when some things were dropped, they were really fierce. Mother Luo and Luo family's eldest sister did not know what happened at the wedding. When Qian Beibei marries into the family, they will find out about it. Holy shit. The system cursed many times in its heart. That was the most explosive period of contradictions. Baigio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Fastware. Supporting female lead. Calm down Claw Book Room O1D. Gu. Noo. Section Noo. Time Free 05. Read 002. Peak. Chapter 1056. Back then, you despised my son for being poor and unable to bring out a betrothal gift. Today, I can despise you for being a country bumpkin and for not being able to bring out a betrothal gift. If this had happened before Qian Beibei had married into the Luo family, then Qian Beibei's life would have been even worse. After Luo Yiqing had married, even if Qian Beibei had a little bit of self-esteem and wanted to forget about it, the Qian family would probably want to tie Qian Beibei up and bring her to the Luo family. There were only two ways to break the host's trap. First, Qian Beibei had married and forgotten about Luo Yiqing. Second, Luo Yiqing had forgotten about Qian Beibei and would never have anything to do with this woman. Of course, that was impossible. There was a saying that said, "What you can't get will always be in a commotion. Commotion is the best." After a round of analysis, the system knelt down in front of Tanghua. Only its great host would have the leisure to calculate these things. It seemed that the great host really treated life in every small world as a vacation. Just as he was thinking, he saw Tanghua take out her phone and call Mother Luo and Sister Luo. "Yes, I'll take you to an oil painting exhibition. Many rich ladies in this circle like to go to all kinds of exhibitions. In the future, if you meet them, you can talk to them." Upon hearing this, Mother Luo and Sister Luo did not refuse. In the afternoon, Tanghua dressed up. She drove to the house to pick up the two of them. Seeing that their makeup and fashion sense had improved a lot, she could not help but nod her head. Luo Yiqing's company would definitely expand. Even without her investment, it would only be a matter of time. Now that she had investment and some help, it would expand even faster. Of course, the majority of the profits would be in the hands of her and her two brothers. Luo Yiqing was actually still a wage earner, but he was a relatively rich wage earner. Thinking about how she could just sit at home and count the money for her, she felt especially happy. Therefore, the money that Luo Yiqing transferred to her every month, she was not stingy in spending it on Luo Mu's mother and Luo's eldest sister. As for how Qian Beibei was going to satisfy the two of them in the future, it was not something she could control. System. Dog. What a dog. Although they were teammates, they couldn't help but complain. Tanghua didn't care about what the system was thinking. She first took Mother Luo and Sister Luo to an oil painting exhibition and then went to listen to a musical. After all, this was what the rich ladies in her circle wanted to do. She had already experienced everything that she could take them to. The two of them seemed to be used to this. Their postures and expressions were very natural. "Lawyer Gu, what are you looking at?" Gui placed the photo in front of him, waved his hand, and said seriously, "This is very important information that will affect my future. Did you get a big order again?" This was one of Gu Ye's core colleagues in the studio. He could be considered Gu Ye's partner, but he didn't account for much of the studio. "Is it the same as Miss Tang's client?" Gu Ye raised his eyebrows. "You're asking too many questions." Okay, I won't ask. I won't ask anymore, okay?" The man shook his head. Stingy guy. They were partners after all. He wasn't trying to steal their business. So did he have to be so secretive? That wasn't right. Although Guyi was stingy, he would at least give some to him because they were partners. Fastware. Supporting female lead. Calm down Claw Book Room 01D. Gu. Woo. Excerpt Noo. Time Free 05. Read 002. Peak. Chapter 1057. Unless the person involved requested to keep it a secret, the other party wouldn't refuse to share information with him, right? Moreover, judging from Gu Ye's expression, it didn't seem like he was looking at any confidential information. That's right. It should be a bunch of photos. Could it be intimate photos that couldn't be seen? That couldn't be right. Even if he had taken nude photos, that guy wouldn't have hidden them so deeply, right? Seeing that he had left, Gu Ye sat back in his seat with a slight smile. He narrowed his eyes as he stared at the photos in his hand and praised sincerely, "So beautiful. You look good when you smile. You look good when you drive. You look good when you talk to others. And you look so charming when you're scheming against others." It turned out that the photos in his hand were all photos of Tanghua in her daily life. He muttered to himself with slight regret, "When are you going to get a divorce?" He thought about how Luo Yiqing's company had become an upper-middle-class company in less than a year. He sighed and said, "It shouldn't be so soon. Qian Beibei hasn't seen Luo Yiqing for more than half a year." That's true. Luo Yiqing is so busy that she wouldn't have time to care about Qian Beibei. Her secretary's schedule is packed to the brim every day. Even if Qian Beibei wants to bump into her, they won't be able to. Gu Yi rested his forehead on his hand and suddenly laughed softly. "It's okay. A duck in my pocket can't run away. I can afford to wait." Based on Qian Beibei's current state of mind, it shouldn't be long before he comes looking for Luo Yiqing. As for Luo Yiqing, once she relaxes, she will definitely think of Qian Beibei, the woman she didn't marry. Yeah, these two are a good match. In a place unknown to Gu Yi, Tanghua was leaning against the sofa with her eyes closed. She was watching him talking to himself and admiring her photos like a pervert. "Host, this is a pervert. Do you want me to teach him a lesson?" After all, Tanghua and Gu Yi rarely met each other. Aside from discussing business matters, they basically didn't see each other and didn't have any ambiguous attitude towards each other. Tanghua opened her eyes. "There's no need for that. He was just staring at my photo and praising me. He didn't do anything else. It was normal for a beautiful person to be liked by others. She couldn't possibly deprive others of their right to like her. That stingy Gu should be a fan of my looks." The system almost spat out. Was she a fan of his looks? "Host, don't you have any shame? You're still a fan of beauty?" Looking at Tanghua's face, he had to admit that he was also a fan of beauty. This face was really pleasing to look at. The system was a little confused. Why did it not believe him? That's not right. When did the host become so magnanimous? This is a secret recording. Dear host, wake up. Wake up. Wake up, ah. That pervert is secretly recording you. He suddenly thought of a saying. If you like someone, it's called flirting. If you don't like someone, it's called harassment. The data shook violently. He thought of a possibility. That stingy Gu couldn't be the host's big cutie, right? Yes, that was most likely the case. Time passed in the blink of an eye. It was already the second anniversary of Luo Yiqing's company. Originally, the company had invested a lot in the beginning. At least, it had a stronger start than many other companies. Especially later on, Tanghua and her two brothers invested a lot of money. With Luo Yiqing's preparation over the years and the group of people she brought, Luo Yiqing's company actually became a hot new company in just 2 years. It attracted a lot of attention. Crosstalk. Female supporting lead. Calm down. Peak. Chapter 1058. In addition, most of the company's capital came from the daughter of the family Tang. Therefore, Luo Yiqing's start was really easier than most companies. For the sake of Tanghua, everyone would more or less give him face. Although Tanghua only invested in Luo Yiqing's company, she had shares in the family Tang. She also had her own shop and several shops that she was running. Among them, their favorite shop was the one that only sold local specialties in the countryside. Every month, they would go to the shop in advance to order. It was really something that they liked. Therefore, they really took care of Luo Yiqing for the sake of Tanghua. The company grew in this way. Luo Yiqing's status also rose again and again. Even though he did not hold a lot of shares in the company, only about 10%, most people were more optimistic about his ability. They all thought in their hearts, no wonder the daughter of the Tang family liked him. It turned out that he was a piece of gold waiting to be used up. The company was already profitable 3 months after its establishment, and there was almost no loss. Half a year was enough to earn back all the money invested. A year later, the company had multiplied many times. 2 years later, the company had multiplied many times again. Although this company was not really a big company, Luo Yiqing was qualified to bring his family to the upper class to attend business cocktail parties. They were all guessing how far Luo Yiqing could take the company in the 3rd year. Then 5 years, 10 years? For the first cocktail party, Luo Yiqing went home early and planned to take Tangguo with him. In fact, he was a little nervous, but Tangguo was different. She grew up attending all kinds of cocktail parties with father and mother Tang. She had seen almost all the big occasions. Luo Yiqing thought that this cocktail party was so important that he must take Tangguo with him. Moreover, she was also the company's biggest shareholder, so she had to show her face. Tangguo did not refuse and said at the same time, "Why don't we bring mom and big sister too? Let them see the world." Luo Yiqing hesitated. He didn't dislike his own mother and sister, but this banquet was unusual. Mother Luo and sister Luo had always lived in the countryside, so they might not be familiar with the etiquette of the cocktail party. "Yiqing, from the looks of it, you don't want to take us there?" Luo Yiqing's mother came out of the room, and big sister Luo was holding her arm. Both of them were dressed up, and Luo Yiqing was stunned. When did his mother and elder sister become like this? Mother Luo looked much younger, while sister Luo was only in her 30s. She didn't look old at all. Now that she had taken good care of herself, she looked like she was less than 30 years old. Compared to before, their temperaments had changed too much. He didn't look like he came from the countryside at all. It wasn't that Luo Yiqing didn't see them usually, but they still liked to wear their old clothes at home. When chatting with the familiar neighbors downstairs, they couldn't wear heavy clothes and make them feel distant, right? Previously, she heard from Tangguo that Luo Yiqing was going to take them to his first cocktail party. Both of them were very happy and dressed up happily in the room. In fact, every time they went to an exhibition or a concert with Tangguo, they would dress up well. They both thought that they would feel uncomfortable if they dressed too old-fashioned in those kinds of places. "Okay, let's go together." Luo Yiqing compromised. He had no choice but to compromise. Fastware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D. Gu, Wu, Noo, Section Noo, Time Free 05, Read 002, The Peak. Chapter 1059. His mother and sister looked much more fashionable than him, and they seemed to talk well too. He turned to look at Tangguo. Needless to say, it was all thanks to her again. What other abilities did Xiaoguo have? She was able to win over such a thrifty person like his mother. That gown must have cost a lot, right? And his sister too. She really looked much younger. He was wondering why his brother-in-law kept calling him recently, saying that he wanted to start his own pig farm. It turned out that it was because of his sister. His sister had become so beautiful. If he didn't earn more money, she would run away. Both of them drove. Tangguo drove sister Luo, and Luo Yiqing drove mother Luo. Looking at mother Luo holding a small bag and smiling, he couldn't help but smile too. His mother had raised him for so long, and he deserved to enjoy life. He had been busy with company matters for the past 2 years, and it was all thanks to Xiaoguo. He had to admit that Xiaoguo was really a qualified wife. "Mom, you don't have to be afraid at the cocktail party later." "I'm not afraid." Mother Luo looked confident. She had seen a lot of big events. In the past 2 years, her daughter-in-law had introduced her to many people. She didn't think that there would be any problems at today's cocktail party. Luo Yiqing thought that Mother Luo was just saying that to comfort him. He didn't expect that when he arrived at the cocktail party, he saw his mother's kind expression suddenly change. She walked past him elegantly and turned to look at sister Luo. She was almost the same as Mother Luo. Their etiquette and behavior were exactly the same. When Tangguo walked up to hold him, he asked in a low voice, "Why do they look so natural? It's as if they've seen it before." "That's right. Mom and sister have been to all kinds of parties with me. Why would they be afraid of this kind of event?" Luo Yiqing suddenly realized that it was because of Xiaoguo. Thinking about it carefully, in the past 2 years, many people had changed because of Xiaoguo. First of all, the few girls in his company who worked in customer service at the beginning had already obtained their bachelor's degrees. Currently, they had transferred to other businesses in the company and were no longer in customer service. The few young men who had worked hard to learn technology had also become the core leaders of the technology team. He planned to send some of these people to be in charge of the branch company in the future. The villagers of Luo Village had also changed a lot. Up until now, they had specialized in producing local specialties from the countryside and only supplied them to Tangguo's shop. Even if they didn't want to go out, they could still make money. Their lives were getting better and better. He had grown really big. Luo Yiqing sighed and walked into the banquet with Tanghua. Many people greeted them as soon as they arrived. Soon, the two separated. Tanghua went with the other women at the banquet. Luo Yiqing went to meet the people of other groups. Tanghua, are they President Luo's mother and eldest sister? Tanghua replied with a smile, yes. They look quite young and don't look like they came from the countryside. Indeed, to have a son and a brother like President Luo, they must be good people. Tanghua smiled and didn't answer. Actually, she didn't do anything. She just used Luo Yiqing's money to hire teachers for the two of them. An etiquette teacher, a makeup teacher, a fashion teacher. She had spent money on them. How could the two of them not transform? Mother Luo was a smart person, and Sister Luo was not a fool. After tasting the sweetness, how could they not learn properly? As for her, now that everything was done, she just had to wait for things to ferment. Chapter 1060. As for how it would develop, that would depend on Qian Beibei's ability to torment people, as well as Luo Yiqing's infatuation with Qian Beibei. Regardless of whether the two of them succeeded or not, as long as there was a dispute between them, she could step back and watch from the sidelines. Suddenly, Tanghua felt someone's gaze on her. She looked up and saw Guyi. Guyi walked towards her with a wine glass in his hand. The women beside Tanghua whispered, Tanghua, the most heartless, immoral, and stingy lawyer is walking over. Let me tell you, what he likes the most is to chat with rich ladies and sell detective services to them. This guy is simply a cancer in the legal profession. Be careful. If I'm not wrong, he will definitely sell these products to you. He will also tell you that which man doesn't cheat. If there is, then this man is either henpecked or a pauper. System. What a joke. It turns out that this stingy Guyi has such a bad reputation. Moreover, not only is he stingy, but his asking price is also very high. His greatest strength is probably his business ability. If there's really a problem, it's easy to find him. After all, he has no conscience. Miss Su, you're wrong to say that. For you, a lawyer with high business ability like me who is also a detective, isn't that what you need? The thickness of Guye's skin made the people around them speechless. In fact, it was because she understood him that Miss Su didn't mind speaking ill of him at all. Because he didn't mind being spoken ill of at all. He didn't mind being verbally humiliated. Of course, if he could be given some money and countless business opportunities, he might even say loudly, please use money to humiliate me to death. Not only did everyone spread rumors about him, not cause him to lose his job, but more and more people came looking for him. This guy only cared about money. As long as he had money, he could investigate anyone. If he was bold, everyone would be afraid of him. There was a saying in the industry that said, provoke anyone but Gu Yi. If you provoked him, you wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. Miss Tang, long time no see. You're still so beautiful. Although he saw new photos of her every day, it was still better to see her in person. Long time no see. Lawyer Gu hasn't changed at all. When the others saw that the two of them knew each other, they didn't say anything else. Actually, whenever they needed help, the first person they would look for was Gu Yi. Putting everything else aside, this guy was the strongest in terms of business ability. Someone had asked him why he was so stingy, and it had always been the same reason. To save money to marry a wife. After saving up for so many years, who knew how much money he had under his hands? Not to mention one wife. He could even marry 100 wives, right? Miss Tang, are you planning to get a divorce soon? Gu Yi asked with great interest. The people around them rolled their eyes. The first thing he did was to ask for a divorce. The relationship between Miss Tang and President Luo was very good. Mother Luo and big sister Luo were very satisfied with this daughter-in-law. This fellow was indeed a malignant tumor. No. Gu Yi took a sip of red wine and sighed regretfully. All right then. If you have any plans to divorce, please let me know immediately. I will definitely get it done for you. With that, Gu Yi left. Luo Yiqing saw this scene. The person beside her noticed her attention and patted her on the shoulder. She quickly smiled and said, don't mind him. That's Gu Yi. Chapter 1061. Gu Yi. He thought the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it before. Looks like President Luo doesn't know much about these things. This Guyi probably wants to promote his products to Miss Tang. Then, the president pulled Luo Yiqing aside and said a lot. Luo Yiqing finally remembered. So this was the notorious Guyi who still had to make an appointment to get things done? Seeing how regretful he looked when he left, your wife definitely wouldn't accept it. Luo Yiqing couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Guo is a rational and smart person. She won't be deceived. Of course. Luo Yiqing knew about Guyi, but she had never met him before. When he heard that it was this person, he wasn't worried anymore. Xiao Guo didn't like this kind of man. He was stingy, had a bad character, and was only interested in money. He continued to chat and laugh with the people around him. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a very familiar figure. If it wasn't Qian Beibei, who else could it be? Looking at Qian Beibei's thin face, his heart ached for no reason. He wanted to walk over, but then he remembered his identity and that there were so many people watching. He had no choice but to walk in another direction discreetly and get closer to them. He could already tell that Qian Beibei didn't seem to be doing well. It was mainly because her mother, Niu Jinlan, was there too. Standing in front of the mother and daughter was a bald man in his 30s. Beibei, this is President Lin. Qian Beibei bit her lip and said, "Hello, President Lin." "Hello, Miss Qian." President Lin's eyes lit up when he saw Qian Beibei. This beautiful woman was his type. Qian Beibei didn't say anything else. She lowered her head slightly and scanned the surroundings from the corner of her eyes. She didn't see Luo Yiqing and felt very disappointed. Luo Yiqing came to attend the banquet. She saw everything just now, but she couldn't find a chance to go up. "Miss Qian, I like you very much. After the banquet, we can have a good chat. Of course, if you feel that it's inconvenient today, we can meet again tomorrow." Qian Beibei's purpose in coming here was not to get to know Mr. Lin, so he refused. "I'm sorry, Mr. Lin. It might be a little inconvenient for me." "Oh, I see." Mr. Lin's smile disappeared. Since she was a noble woman, he didn't have much patience. He saw that Qian Beibei was good-looking and came over to get to know her because someone wanted to matchmake them. The result was obvious. The other party was absent-minded and uninterested in him. In particular, the look of disgust that flashed past his eyes just now made him sneer in his heart. Niu Jinlan watched as President Lin turned to leave. She was so angry that she pinched Qian Beibei. "This is President Lin. Your aunt brought us here with great difficulty so that you can get to know more people. There are so many good men here." "Beibei, what else do you want?" "Mom, I came to the banquet with you because you're my mom. I don't want you to lose face in front of my aunt." Qian Beibei pushed Niu Jinlan's hand away. "Mom, don't you think that you look like you're selling your body? You're selling your body, President Lin is buying your body, and I'm that piece of meat." Niu Jinlan was so angry that she almost died. Before she could say anything, Qian Beibei pushed her away. Qian Beibei ran to the washroom with red eyes. Niu Jinlan chased after him and grabbed Qian Beibei. "Do you think you can still be together with Luo Yiqing?" Bao, Noo, Nob, O1C. Quick wear. Supporting female lead. Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D. Gu? Noo. Excerpt Noo. Time free 05. Read 002. Peak. Chapter 1062. Even if he's doing pretty well now, how can he compare to the people here? In front of these people, he's just a small fry. Beibei, he's already been married for 2 years. You're 29 this year. If you delay any longer, you won't be able to get married. Niu Jinlan advised earnestly. What's so good about Luo Yiqing? Even if you still have him in your heart, look at him standing there and not even looking at you. Our Beibei is so good-looking. Of course, you have to find a better man than Luo Yiqing. The men here are better than Luo Yiqing. That President Lin just now is not bad. Beibei, do you want to go over and get to know him?" Qian Beibei was a little annoyed by her words. She pushed Niu Jinlan away and said with red eyes, "Mom, in my heart, no one can compare to Luo Yiqing. I really regret listening to your threat back then and making such a stupid decision on the day of our wedding. No matter what Luo Yiqing's achievements are, I will still like him." "Mom, if you didn't stop us, Yicheng and I would have been married long ago. We might even have a child. I haven't been home much these 2 years. Mom, haven't you thought about why? Qian Beibei's expression was a little sad. For more than a year, you weren't worried about me at all. I was the one who called to ask about the situation at home. It's also these 2 months that you've been contacting me and persuading me to come home. Mom, do you really think I don't know what you're thinking? Niu Jinlan's gaze was a little evasive. Beibei, I'm just worried that you'll be bullied outside. Besides, you've been living outside for so long. It's time to come home, right? I didn't mention it before because I know you've been angry. Now that Luo Yicheng is married, Beibei, don't tell me that you still want something to happen between you and him, right? Qian Beibei raised her chin and said, I don't believe that Yicheng can really let go of me. 2 years ago, we agreed to give each other 3 years. As long as I can't forget him and he can't forget me, we'll be together again. Crazy. I'm afraid you're crazy. Niu Jinlan's eyes widened. So, you still have to wait until you're 30. Then you'll be an old lady. For the sake of Yicheng, I'm willing to take a gamble. Mom, it's because my younger brother is getting married and we've bought a new house. We can't afford the betrothal gift, so you can't wait to find a rich man. Regardless of his character, appearance, or hobbies, as long as he's rich, you'll marry me, right? Beibei, how can you think like that? No matter what decision I make, it's for your own good. You see, marrying a rich man is better than marrying a poor boy and suffering, right? That's enough, Mom. Don't say any more. Qian Beibei took her bag and walked into the bathroom. After taking 2 steps, she stopped and turned back to look at Niu Jinlan resolutely. I'm sure that I won't be able to forget Luo Yicheng after a year. If he hasn't forgotten me, I'll definitely be with him. If he really forgets me and falls in love with Tanghua, then I won't marry him for the rest of my life. When Niu Jinlan heard Qian Beibei say this, she almost went crazy with anger. She blurted out, Qian Beibei, how can you not marry him? Do you know that in order to get here today, your aunt and I almost talked until our lips were torn? If we don't succeed, how can I raise my head in front of your aunt? Up to you. It's going to be embarrassing anyway. Do as you see fit. Chapter 1063. Niu Jinlan really didn't expect that Qian Beibei, who had been very well behaved since childhood and listened to everything she said, would sing a different tune from her. She was so angry that she lost her mind. She scolded a few words outside. Seeing someone come in and look at her strangely, she blushed and quickly walked in with her bag covering her face. Wicked girl, you're a money loser. If you don't marry him, what about Cheng Cheng's betrothal gift? Seeing that there was no way today, Niu Jinlan left the banquet dejectedly. She had to go back and think of a way to make Qian Beibei agree to marry. Qian Beibei thought that Niu Jinlan should have left by now, so he came out of the bathroom. Turning a corner, he saw Luo Yicheng standing in the corner. Thinking of what happened just now, the grievances in his heart gushed out. In the past 2 years, she often went to secretly see Luo Yicheng, but she didn't see him often. Sometimes, she could only see him from a distance, because Luo Yicheng's company was getting bigger and bigger. Now, there would be a group of people following him wherever he went. She couldn't get close to him at all, and she might encounter all kinds of strange eyes. Since the incident at the wedding, she understood that it was better not to hurt a man's face outside. At that time, she was confused for a moment. How could she really listen to her mother's words and embarrass Luo Yicheng in public? Otherwise, Luo Yicheng and she wouldn't have come to this. They were 2 people who loved each other, but they couldn't be together. She really couldn't hold on to such a crying day. Yicheng, why are you here? Qian Beibei looked at Luo Yicheng. This man was more fascinating than 2 years ago. Luo Yicheng had been here for a long time. It should be said that he was 1 step earlier than Niu Jinlan. He heard what Niu Jinlan and Qian Beibei said just now. He thought that in 2 years, Qian Beibei should have almost forgotten him. In that case, he didn't have to deliberately forget her. He only needed time to kill, and he could live a peaceful life with Tanghua. His life now was really good. He can focus on his work. As for the other matters at home, Tanghua is there to manage them in an orderly manner. He was lucky to have such a good wife. Moreover, his achievements now, in Tanghua's eyes, Not to mention that most of the company's shares was hers. In fact, she was as free as he was. He has already thought about it. When he forgets Qian Beibei, or when Qian Beibei gets married, he will live a good life with Tanghua and never think about those things again. When he saw Qian Beibei at the cocktail party today, the love that he had suppressed for 2 years gushed out in an instant. Especially when he saw Qian Beibei being introduced to CEO Lin, he almost rushed out. In the end, Tang, he. Chapter 1064. Yicheng, I'm very happy to hear that you haven't forgotten me. Qian Beibei lowered his head and smiled. I haven't forgotten you either. I miss you every day, and even secretly look at you in the corner. In the past 2 years, I've watched you become more and more outstanding, and I've become sadder and sadder. It seems that you're farther away from me. Fortunately, you haven't forgotten me yet. Beibei, it's really impossible for us. Yicheng, you promised me that you'd give us 3 years. Qian Beibei raised his thin and pale little face, which made Luo Yicheng's heart ache. Yicheng, are you going back on your word? I know that my mother took great pains to bring me to this banquet in order to find me a rich, old, and ugly man. Even if I knew, I didn't hesitate to come, because I heard from them that you would definitely attend this banquet, so I came. I just want to see you, get close to you, and ask you again, 2 years have passed, have you forgotten me? If you forget me, I'll choose to leave. If you haven't forgotten me, I'm willing to wait until the last moment. Looking at Qian Beibei like this, Luo Yicheng couldn't say the words in his mouth. Thinking of Niu Jinlan's words just now, he said, if you encounter any trouble, you can come to me. I'm not in any trouble. But, just now your mother. Qian Beibei's eyes lit up. Did you hear that? Yes, my mother does want me to marry a rich man, regardless of his appearance and age, as long as he can afford the betrothal gift. This betrothal gift money is prepared for my brother, Qian. Yicheng, don't you think this is funny? Don't worry, I won't listen to her. I only have you in my heart. If she really forces me, I won't obey. I, Qian Beibei, will either marry Luo Yicheng in this lifetime, or never marry. Luo Yicheng didn't know what to say. Qian Beibei's words moved her, but it was impossible between them. He thought that 3 years would be enough for both of them to forget about this relationship. He never thought that Qian Beibei would love him so deeply. He also did not forget about Qian Beibei. There was still a year left, and he could not forget about Qian Beibei. When he thought of how good Tanghua was, he felt very conflicted. If he really couldn't forget about Qian Beibei for 3 years, it would be unfair to Xiaoguo. If he went back on his word to Qian Beibei, he would be letting her down. Yicheng, you don't have to be troubled. Don't you still have a year? A year later, maybe you will forget me or fall in love with Tanghua. At that time, you two can be lovey-dovey for the rest of your lives, and I won't disturb you. Listening to Qian Beibei's pale and hollow voice, Luo Yicheng fell into pain and said, if you have any difficulties, you must come to me. I know, Yicheng. If I have any difficulties, the only person I can think of is you, and only you are willing to help me. Don't worry, my mother won't dare to do anything to me. Miss Tang, what do you think of my efficiency? No one knew that Tanghua and the notorious lawyer Gu were hiding in a room and looking at their phones. The phone was showing the conversation between Luo Yicheng and Qian Beibei. Miss Tang, did you hear that? Of course, if you only listen to him, there's actually nothing wrong with Luo Yicheng. But look at his expression, his movements. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Vertex. Chapter 1065. TSK. Everything he does shows how much he cares about Qian Beibei. Guyi rubbed his chin and glanced at Tanghua, who was watching the surveillance footage intently. He said in a low voice, Miss Tang, your marriage is in jeopardy. You have to prepare early. Luo Yicheng, this man, actually made a 3-year promise with this woman behind your back. TSK, what a scumbag. They're already married, but he still made a 3-year promise. He doesn't care about Miss Tang at all. Miss Tang, you're so beautiful, capable, and elegant. You have a house, a car, and property. Luo Yiqing must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. How dare he make you a cuckold? I can't take this lying down. System. Guyi knew exactly what he was thinking. This guy was obviously trying to steal his great host. Tangwa sat on the sofa and watched the surveillance footage silently. She listened to Luo Yiqing and Qian Beibei's conversation with a faint smile on her lips. At the same time, she heard Gu Ye's words and lifted her head to look at him. Gu Ye stopped himself from saying anything and asked, "So, Miss Tang, when do you plan to get a divorce?" They haven't cheated yet, have they? They just had a private conversation and nothing happened. We can't rush things like getting a divorce. Gu Ye looked at the surveillance footage with some distress. He thought to himself, this Luo Yiqing is really a coward. Since he likes Qian Beibei, he should be bold enough to do it. Why should you be reserved when you're with a woman who likes you as well? Go ahead and do it. Tangwa can get a divorce. Damn it. He had waited for 2 years. He was about to go crazy. Gu Ye maintained a gentlemanly smile on his face. Then I'll do my best to find substantial evidence of Luo Yiqing's infidelity. I'll make sure that Miss Tang is on the winning side and the other party has no chance to retaliate. Then I'll have to trouble Lawyer Gu. It's no trouble at all. Miss Tang is my customer. It's my duty to work for you. Then, Miss Tang, will you divorce Luo Yiqing when we have evidence of her cheating? Gu Ye was more concerned about this and couldn't help but ask, actually, I'm very curious. Will Miss Tang get married again after her divorce? He was a little nervous. What kind of man would she find when she got married? Of course, he wouldn't look for Luo Yiqing's model. He almost didn't ask him directly what his model was like. There's actually no meaning in getting married. Tangwa shook her head and pointed at Luo Yiqing's painful expression. Look at this man. He has a wife, but he still shows such a pitiful and heartbroken expression to another woman. I'm afraid of marriage now. Don't do that, Miss Tang. There are many good men in this world. For example, Gu Ye. Miss Tang, you're so beautiful, rich, and good-looking. You'll definitely find someone who treats you wholeheartedly and only well. For example, him. I'm not looking. Tangwa leaned lazily on the sofa with her eyes half closed. That languid look of hers really made Gu Ye's heart beat wildly. How could she be so attractive? He almost went against his principles and pounced on her. How could a woman like her not get married? She had to get married. She had to marry him. Lawyer Gu already said that I'm beautiful, rich, and have everything. It doesn't seem to make a difference whether I get married or not. Miss Tang, you haven't met the right person. Love is a beautiful thing. If Miss Tang has the time, you can experience it. Gu Ye was a little anxious. You have to find someone to accompany you to see the wind, the water, and the mountains and rivers, right? If not, you can have someone to carry your luggage when you're traveling. How nice would that be? Tangwa seemed to think that it made sense and said, You're right. I should hire a few tall and strong personal assistants and bodyguards. Otherwise, I'll have to carry my own luggage when I'm traveling. Gu Ye was speechless. Why would she need to find an assistant or bodyguard? Wouldn't it be better to find a boyfriend? For example, someone like him. Chapter 1066. Yiqing, where did you go just now? Luo Yiqing had just returned to the banquet from the washroom when he was stopped by Tangwa. Looking at her smiling face, he felt a little guilty. I went to the washroom. Oh, no wonder. I looked around here and didn't see you. Are you okay? Facing this pair of clear eyes, Luo Yiqing thought of his promise to Qian Beibei and felt even more guilty. He just couldn't bear to see Qian Beibei's pitiful look. In a moment of impulse, he promised Tangwa that if he still couldn't forget her after a year, he would divorce Tangwa and they would be together again. Now that he saw Tangwa, he regretted being so impulsive. It's okay. I'm fine. Tangwa looked at Luo Yiqing's face. That's good. You were gone for so long. I thought something happened. Luo Yiqing took a deep breath and smiled. I won't. I've made you worry. Okay. Tangwa responded and followed Luo Yiqing back to the banquet. The two of them greeted many people. From the outside, there seemed to be no problem between them. Luo Yiqing was a rising star, while Tangwa was a real rich family's daughter. When the two of them stood together, They were both outstanding people. They were a perfect match. In short, whoever came up to talk to them couldn't help but praise them. The two of them were really a good match. Because Tangua's ability was not weak, they wouldn't praise them with words like a talented man and a beautiful woman. In their impression, the family Tang's daughter was much more powerful than Luo Yiqing. Everyone knew that Luo Yiqing could be where he was today if it weren't for the full support of the family Tang's daughter. How could he have succeeded? Back then, he did not hesitate to take out tens of millions of yuan for Luo Yiqing to set up a company. He even invested a lot of money later on. Her two brothers also supported her. They had to admit that they were still a little jealous. But who asked him to be chosen by the daughter of the family Tang family? Everyone knew about Luo Yiqing's past. In the past, he was just a small Luo, so no one cared about him. Now that his future was limitless, he more or less knew about the matter between him and Qian Beibei. However, they only knew Luo Yiqing, but they didn't know Qian Beibei. They only heard that the surname of the woman who was involved with him was Qian. They were all talking about it in private. Fortunately, Luo Yiqing was disliked by the Qian family. Otherwise, how could she get the favor of Miss Tang? As long as Luo Yiqing worked with peace of mind and joined forces with Miss Tang, it would be an incomparable glory for the rest of his life. They never thought that Luo Yiqing would have a 3-year agreement with the woman who disliked him in the past. Just now, the two of them were catching up. President Luo, you are really lucky. Luo Yiqing nodded with a smile on his face. He didn't think there was anything wrong with what he said. He was really lucky to be able to talk and laugh with this group of people today. It was really Tangua who supported him behind the scenes. In this world, he couldn't find anyone who was willing to believe in him and support him like this. Maybe he didn't fall in love with this woman, but this woman was already very important in his heart. It could be said that she was both a teacher and a friend. Compared with Qian Beibei, he respected this woman more. Thinking of the things he promised Qian Beibei, Luo Yiqing felt a little irritated. Gu Yi sat in a corner and stared coldly at the man and woman who were talking and laughing with others. He sneered. It's all fake. Fake? Lawyer Gu, what are you talking about? Gu Yi wiped his face and showed a gentlemanly smile to the person who came. Boschin, do you have any business with me? Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Qian, supporting female lead, calm down Claw Book Room O1D, Gu, Oo, Section Noo, Time Free, O5, Read 002, The Peak. Chapter 1067. At the end of the banquet, Gu Yi looked at the check in his hand and felt much better. He kissed the check and put it in his pocket with satisfaction. However, when he saw Tangua holding Luo Yiqing's hand as they walked out and everyone was praising them for being a perfect match, his happy mood suddenly disappeared. He smiled and followed everyone out. When Tangua was about to get into the car, he shouted, Miss Tang, if you need anything, you can look for me at any time. Luo Yiqing opened the car door and sent Tangua in. Then he looked up and said to Gu Yi, Lawyer Gu, you're too polite. Xiaoguo probably doesn't need anything from you. Gu Yi smiled. That's not necessarily true. I can do anything. Miss Tang will need me one day. If she needed him to work on a case, she would need him to warm her bed or something. He had saved up almost all his money and was just short of a wife. After saving up for so many years, he finally found a wife. But he still couldn't have her. He was really going crazy. /I and 1T/I, especially Luo Yiqing, this scumbag, who occupied his position and was entangled with other women. He was especially unhappy. Miss Tang, goodbye. If you need anything, you must look for me. It's a little expensive, but I'll definitely do things to your satisfaction. Luo Yiqing breathed a sigh of relief. She thought that Gu Yi really wanted to promote business to Tangua. This Gu Yi was really as bad as the rumors said. She really didn't know how he had survived until now. Because they drank at the banquet, both of them called for a designated driver. Mother Luo and eldest sister Luo sat in one car, while Tangua and Luo Yiqing sat in another. After the car started, Luo Yiqing remembered that Gu Yi had looked for Tangua twice. He was a little curious about what business Gu Yi had promoted to Tangua. He asked, Xiaoguo, what business did Gu Yi promote to you? I heard that his reputation isn't very good. It's not very good. He's really stingy. Hearing Tang was evaluation, Luo Yiqing laughed. I heard that too. He's a person who only cares about money. What did he say to you when he came to look for you? Tangwa chuckled and said, he asked me when I was going to get a divorce. If I wanted to do so, he could take over my divorce case. He also said that he would definitely be efficient. He promised that he would do it well. When Luo Yiqing heard this, his face darkened. Stay away from him in the future. This person doesn't have good intentions. In order to earn money, he actually persuaded others to divorce and destroyed other people's families. I know. Tangwa smiled faintly, but I heard from my friends in the industry that he has never failed a case before. Basically, if someone wants a divorce, as long as they can afford it, they will be very satisfied with the outcome. It's better to stay away from this kind of person. Besides, we're not going to get a divorce, Luo Yiqing said naturally. Don't listen to his nonsense. At this moment, Luo Yiqing did not think that Tangwa would initiate a divorce with him. Because of Tangwa's evaluation of Gu Yi, he did not think too much about it. After knowing her for so many years, he had never thought that this woman who liked him so much had planned to divorce him from the start. She had even schemed so much during their marriage. He thought that this woman had always loved him. If she didn't love him, why would she support his career so wholeheartedly? Fastware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D, Gu, Woo, Excerpt No. Time Free 05, Read 002. Chapter 1068. She couldn't support him just because she hated him, right? No one would be so boring. System. Yes, his host was such a boring person. After this cocktail party, Luo Yiqing also knew that Mother Luo and Sister Luo had changed a lot. Whenever there was a need for them to attend a cocktail party, he and Tangwa would bring them along. The two of them were also used to such a scene. After more than 2 years of Tang was hiring of various teachers, the two of them had basically broken away from the rustic atmosphere that they had when they came from the countryside. Whether it was the way they talked or their habits, they had undergone a huge change. Of course, Mother Luo was still more down-to-earth when she chatted with the aunties and uncles downstairs. But no matter how down-to-earth she was, her way of talking had changed a lot. But these aunties and uncles would not alienate Mother Luo because of this. Mother Luo was more quick-witted than some young people. She got along very well with the neighbors and was especially good at judging people. Sister Luo was also not a fool. She made use of the people at the cocktail party to help her man sell a lot of pork. That's right, pork. Her man was afraid that if he did not work hard now, his young and beautiful wife would run away, so he actually started a pig farm. This pig farm was divided into feed pigs and free-range pigs on the mountain. The pork that she sold was the free-range pigs on the mountain. Tangwa did not care about this at all. Now she was enjoying this kind of game. Mother Luo and Sister Luo were not simple women who could turn the world upside down. Only after having and then losing it would one know what was the most honorable thing. Mother Luo once had a daughter-in-law who was rich, beautiful, and good to her. She introduced her to the upper class and did not despise her at all. Could she still accept a mediocre daughter-in-law? Sister Luo once had a sister-in-law who taught her makeup, took her to classes, and broadened her horizons. Could she still accept a sister-in-law who could not help her with anything? People were not to be compared. Luo Yiqing used to have no worries at home and only needed to work hard in peace. No matter what problems the company encountered, he could go home and discuss with his perfect wife. There was always something to be gained. If there was a problem with the company's funds and needed more funds for investment, he only needed to discuss it with his perfect wife, and a huge sum of money would be invested into the company the next day. His home was in good order, and it could even help him with his career. When he lost such a perfect wife and was with his true love, he understood that there were some things that could not be obtained even if one begged for them. What was regret? What was loss? Tangwa propped up her chin and flipped through the latest photos sent to her by a certain stingy Gu. It was none other than the photos of Luo Yiqing and Qian Beibei met. Qian Beibei's workplace had been changed. In fact, Luo Yi's and Sister Luo S's TTSS Mother Est He didn't learn what he needed to learn, and he didn't make the connections he needed to make. But she did not care about this. She only cared about Luo Yiqing. As long as she was close to Luo Yiqing, she would be satisfied. She believed that Yiqing would not forget her in a year. At that time, their suffering would be over. At this time, Tang's cell phone rang. The words, Qian Beibei, were very conspicuous. Miss Tang, have you seen the photo? Fastware, supporting female lead, calm down claw book room 01D. Gu. Noo. Section Noo. Time free 05. Read 002. The Peak. Chapter 1069. I saw it. Tangwa leaned lazily on the sofa. They've been seeing each other quite frequently recently. Miss Tang, I think it's necessary for me to explain the word frequent to you. Frequent refers to frequent, and the interval is short. 2 or 3 times a day can't be considered frequent. They're seeing each other all the time. Well, okay. Lawyer Gu has a point. Guyi felt uncomfortable when he heard Tang was in different tone, but he still maintained a very polite tone and asked, So, Miss Tang, when do you plan to get a divorce? They just talk every day. Don't they keep a certain distance from each other in these photos? Can this be used as a reason to cheat? Gu Yi gritted his teeth. It can't. So, Lawyer Gu, please pay more attention. Without enough evidence, this marriage won't be easy to get a divorce. I have so many shares in the company. If we get a peaceful divorce, I'll get a lot of money from him. Lawyer Gu, we've agreed from the beginning that I don't want to give him a single cent, 1 ton. 1 ton and 1 t/I. Of course I won't forget a word Miss Tang said. Hearing that Tangwa wasn't willing to give Luo Yiqing a single cent, Gu Ye's mood inexplicably improved. He said cheerfully, With me around, Miss Tang, don't worry. I guarantee that the other party won't get a single cent of the assets under your name. You'll have to get a lot of money from him. I'll take half of his. Tangwa said with a smile. If they all split, it wouldn't be fun. Without a difference in class, how could the gap between Qian Beibei and Luo Yiqing be reflected? How could Mother Luo and Sister Luo be justified in despising Qian Beibei's family background? Luo Yiqing had to be rich. Of course, he couldn't be richer than her. He had to work hard to earn money for her. She narrowed her eyes. In that case, when the time came for a divorce, she couldn't be too domineering. Tangwa's fingers kept tapping on the table. She suddenly thought of her 2 biological brothers, and her mind lit up. She would leave the matter of collecting the property to her brother. When the time came, she would just have to pretend to be a little white lotus. If that was the case, she wouldn't be strong, but rather weak and pitiful. Just thinking about it made him feel great. System, that's awesome. Miss Tang? Lawyer Gu, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. If there's any news on Luo Yiqing's side, remember to inform me immediately. By the way, Lawyer Gu, if anyone asked you who asked you to do this in the future, just say it's the family Tang. Gu Ye's lips curled into a smile. Don't worry, Miss Tang. I've always instructed my subordinates to be family Tang people. The excuse is that the family Tang is afraid that their baby will be at a disadvantage, so they came to me. System, host, this man is really scheming. Originally, he wanted to give Gu Yi a hard time, but he never expected to see a satisfied expression on his host's face. What the hell? I can rest assured when Lawyer Gu is in charge. Of course, when I work for Miss Tang, I do it wholeheartedly. I can't make any mistakes. What a joke. This was his future wife. How could he not be serious? How could his wife's assets be divided by an outsider? Even if his wife didn't feel heartache, he would. After hanging up the phone, Guyi sat in his office a little despondently. He stared outside and flipped through the calendar. He would be 30 next year. When would he be able to get married? Fastware, supporting female lead, calm down claw book room 01D. Gu, Su. Section Noo. Time is free. Reading 002. Time is free. Reading 002. Vertex. Chapter 1070. Tangwa didn't know that a certain someone was crazy about getting married. She was now addicted to role-playing and was having a great time. The system was also very happy to see its energy increase. On the other hand, it felt sad for the male and female leads in the next world as it watched its host become more and more perverted. It hoped that the male and female leads in the next world didn't do anything wrong to its host. As long as they didn't do anything wrong to its host, they could still get along peacefully. Facing such a perverted host, it always felt a little scared. Especially after the host ignited her role-playing skills, the way she smiled and pranked people was scary. Bah. TSK, TSK, TSK. Luo Yiqing had tried to avoid meeting Qian Beibei, but Qian Beibei's workplace was very close to his company. If he saw her, he couldn't not greet her, right? Occasionally, when he saw Qian Beibei's lonely appearance, he couldn't bear to be ruthless. He didn't forget Qian Beibei, he was very clear about it. But now he couldn't do too much. The most he could do was help Qian Beibei a little at work. Once, he accidentally went to a floor where Qian Beibei worked and happened to see Qian Beibei being embarrassed by the leader. He couldn't help but say a few words for Qian Beibei. After that, he couldn't help but pay attention to Qian Beibei's living situation. From time to time, when he heard news about Qian Beibei, he had the idea to secretly help behind the scenes. Looking at the ambiguous expression of the leader, he didn't explain too much. As long as the other party didn't publicize it, perhaps this misunderstanding could make Qian Beibei's life much better. Later, he found that Qian Beibei was much happier. Not long after, he found that Qian Beibei wasn't very happy, so he found an opportunity to ask. Qian Beibei didn't say much to him, only that it was a family matter. He restrained himself from thinking about it or caring about it. His mind kept replaying the image of Qian Beibei's pitiful and helpless appearance. In the end, he still hired someone to investigate Qian Beibei's family. After seeing the situation, Luo Yiqing finally understood why Qian Beibei was having such a hard time. It turned out that Qian Chengcheng was going to get married, but the Qian family had bought a new house in the best area in the city. The bride's side had even asked for a betrothal gift of several 100,000 yuan. Since the Qian family could not afford it, they could only turn their attention to Qian Beibei. A few years ago, because he couldn't afford the betrothal gifts, he almost made a fool of himself. In the end, he parted ways with Qian Beibei. Actually, he was somewhat disgusted with the Qian family, but when he thought of the Qian Beibei, he felt pity for them. Back then, Beibei was also a victim. The Qian family wanted the betrothal gifts most likely because of Qian Chengcheng. He stared at the information for a long time. Finally, he dialed a number that he hadn't dialed in a long time. Hello, who is this? Niu Jinlan's voice was still as harsh as ever. There was no change in it at all. Luo Yiqing was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "It's me, Luo Yiqing." Luo Yiqing? Why are you calling me? Niu Jinlan's tone was not very pleasant. He could tell that she wanted to be fierce, but she seemed to have thought of something and controlled her temper. Oh, it's President Luo. Why are you calling? Are you looking for our Beibei? President Luo, you're already married. It's not very good for you to look for our Beibei. Our Beibei is a pure and innocent girl. She won't be someone's mistress, much less your mistress. Don't harm our Beibei. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Wear fast. Supporting female lead. Calm down Claw Book Room O1D. Gu. Noo. Excerpt Noo. Time free 05. Read 002. Peak. Chapter 1071. Madam Niu, I heard that you've been going on blind dates for Beibei recently? I'm going on blind dates for Beibei. What does that have to do with a busy person like you, President Luo? After all, I've known Beibei for a while. I can't watch you push her into the fire pit. You actually want her to marry those old and ugly men for Qian Chengcheng's betrothal gifts. Have you thought about her feelings? So what if they're old and ugly? It's fine as long as they treat Beibei well. What's wrong with Beibei being a rich wife in the past? Madam Niu, how much is Qian Chengcheng's betrothal gifts? Hearing Luo Yiqing's words, Niu Jinlan was stunned. Then, she asked, why are you asking this? President Luo, you really don't want to keep Beibei, do you? I won't allow it. Beibei can't be a mistress. President Luo, if you really like Beibei, Please come and find Bebe when you're still single. What she meant was that Luo Yiqing could only be entangled with Qian Bebe after she got a divorce. What she meant was that she didn't object to Luo Yiqing and Qian Bebe dating. What I mean is, I can give you a sum of money. Don't make things difficult for Bebe and let her go on blind dates with those old men. Whether it's now or in the future, don't make things difficult for Bebe. Take this as compensation for being with me for 9 years. Are you telling the truth? Niu Jinlan's voice was filled with joy. Because of the betrothal gifts, her son's marriage had been delayed for a long time. She was so worried that her hair had turned white. Qian Bebe didn't listen to her and kept defending the people she was good to. Sooner or later, she wouldn't be able to get the betrothal gifts. The bride's family was also pressing her. Cheng Cheng had argued with her several times, and she was worried to death. Of course it's true, but Madame Niu has to sign a contract with me. As long as you agree, I can help you pay the betrothal gifts. You're not allowed to make trouble for Bebe in the future. Niu Jinlan calculated in her mind. A sum of money for nothing was worth it. Furthermore, she really might not be able to force Bebe. Bebe was about to turn 30. After this age, a woman's value would depreciate. Many big bosses were also unwilling to look for a 30-year-old woman. Now that Luo Yiqing was here, of course it was good. From the looks of it, Luo Yiqing still had some thoughts about her Bebe. If Luo Yiqing got a divorce now and married Bebe, it wouldn't be bad either. For the sake of the other party's ability, she didn't mind that it was his second marriage. All right, Cheng Cheng's betrothal gift is 1 million yuan. As long as you can take out 1 million yuan, I'll sign that contract with you. I won't introduce anyone to Bebe in the future. Bebe was almost 30 years old. To be honest, he couldn't recommend any good men to him. If Luo Yiqing still liked Bebe and was willing to divorce him, it would be good. Luo Yiqing didn't know what Niu Jinlan was thinking. He heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the other party agree. This could be considered as his compensation for all the years he had spent on Qian Bebe. He hoped that Niu Jinlan wouldn't find trouble with him so that she could live a better life. Not long after, Niu Jinlan received 1 million yuan. In her heart, she was still thinking that Luo Yiqing was really too rich now. Actually, the other party's family wanted 500,000 yuan. The price she gave Luo Yiqing was just a casual offer. If the other party couldn't take out that much money, she could change her offer. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't even hesitate. After receiving the money, Niu Jinlan really didn't make things difficult for Qian Bebe anymore. She also didn't introduce anyone to her. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Fastware, Supporting Female Lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room O1D, Gu, Noo, Excerpt, Noo, Time Free 05, Read 002, Peak. Chapter 1072. Niu Jinlan even called Qian Bebe. Qian Bebe looked at Niu Jinlan's phone and felt a little helpless, but he still picked it up. Mom, I've made it very clear to you. No matter how many men you introduce to me on blind dates, I won't agree. Qian Bebe will either not marry or marry Luo Yiqing for the rest of my life. I've made a promise with him. There's still a year left. Just you wait. Bebe, I'm not going to introduce you to someone. Forget it. I can't force you anyway. A grown girl can't be kept at home. I just asked you to come back for a meal. You haven't been back for a long time. By the way, I'll also inform you about Chengqing's marriage. Qian Bebe was a little surprised. You've collected the money for Brother Qi's betrothal gifts? Yes. Bebe, come back for dinner. I won't introduce you to anyone in the future. You can be with whoever you want. You said that you have a promise with Luo Yiqing, right? Okay, as long as you have a result, I won't object. Qian Bebe was surprised by Niu Jinlan's change, but when he thought about how he wouldn't have to face all kinds of old men in the future, he sighed in relief. 1 ton and 1 T/I. Since Qian Chengqing had collected the money for the betrothal gifts, he probably wouldn't have any ideas about her. Niu Jinlan was her mother. After all, she couldn't stay away forever. Bebe, come back. Your dad misses you a lot. Okay, I'll be back this weekend. A few days later, Luo Yiqing looked at Qian Bebe in high spirits and felt a little happy. When they met one time, He couldn't help but ask, "You look very happy recently?" "Yes, my mom doesn't force me to go on blind dates anymore." "Iching, I've been persevering." Facing Qian Bei's serious gaze, Luo Iching looked away. "I'm going home." Qian Bei's eyes dimmed and he replied in a low voice, "Okay." Luo Iching turned her back to Qian Bei. He knew that she didn't look good, but he couldn't go on like this. He didn't look back, afraid that if he did, he wouldn't be able to take his eyes off her. "Miss Tang, did you see that? This man is struggling, in pain, and in pain. This means that he really can't let go of the woman behind him." Guyi shook his head and slowly took a sip of tea. "I'm sure that it won't be long before they cross the line. As long as there's another accident, I guarantee that they'll be together every minute. They won't even hesitate to make you a cuckold." He glanced at Tanghua and found that this woman was really calm. She was already being accused, but she wasn't angry at all. What should he do? If his future wife did not divorce him, he would not be able to realize his dream of getting married before the age of 30. Then I'll have to trouble lawyer Gu to continue observing them and try to find substantial evidence of their infidelity as soon as possible. Tanghua looked up and smiled. This smile made Guyi forget everything and just nodded foolishly. "Yes, Miss Tang. I guarantee that I'll help you perfectly. They won't be able to escape." "I'm going home, Lawyer Gu. Let me know if there's any good news. You don't have to tell me the next time there's a scene where nothing happens between the two of them. I've been very busy recently, and I'm losing a lot of money every minute." "Miss Tang, actually money isn't that important. There are many beautiful things in this world. For example, love and so on." Tanghua shook her head. "I think money is very important. Isn't Lawyer Gu working so hard to help me because money is important?" "No, of course not," Guyi said in his heart. He was working so hard not for money. "My future wife, this is a misunderstanding, a big misunderstanding." Fastware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D. Gu. No. Excerpt, No. Time free 05. Reading 002, peak. Chapter 1073. Guyi watched as Tanghua drove away. He patted his head in frustration. She was too difficult. Everyone said that it was difficult to go to court, but he felt that the most difficult thing in the world was to woo his wife. Because she chatted with Qian Bei for a while, Luo Iching came home a little later than usual. "You're back?" He looked at Tanghua, who was sitting on the sofa, greeting him. He felt a little guilty and a little guilty. He really couldn't forget Qian Bei, so he couldn't completely accept Tanghua. Even if this wife was really perfect and impeccable, should he be glad that Tanghua was a reasonable person, or should he blame himself for not being able to do what he promised? Auntie Sue warmed the food in the pot. "Ichin, go and eat." "Okay," Luo Iching responded. He put down his briefcase, washed his hands, and went to the kitchen to eat. As he ate, he thought about what had happened in the past few years. He felt more and more guilty towards Tanghua. 1 ton and 1 T/I. He had already promised Bei that if they didn't forget each other after a year, they would be together again. But in front of Tanghua, he really didn't know how to bring up this matter. He didn't want it to be like this, but he didn't know why it was like this. "Xiaogua, what's wrong?" Tanghua looked up and smiled at him. "Did something happen at the company? Are you short of funds? Or is there a problem with the plan?" Luo Iching was stunned by Tanghua's reaction. Then, he lowered his head and ate. Xiaogua was so perfect. No wonder no one hated her. The villagers liked her, the people in the company liked her, and everyone who knew her liked her. Everyone envied him. He also knew that she was very good. She was very good. But why didn't he feel a rush of excitement towards her? It was because he already had Qian Bei in his heart. He couldn't do anything about it. "I'm going to buy a villa. We've been married for more than 2 years. Back then, you had to live in such a small place." After he became rich, he bought a house for Mother Luo and Sister Luo. "I think when Mom and Big Sister come over, we can also have some fun together. This house is really a little small." Tanghua smiled and said, "Sure, I have no problem with that. You're right. Now that we have money, we can change to another villa." Although his mother and sister lived in the same neighborhood, It was still not as convenient as living in the same house. Sometimes, I have to walk for more than 10 minutes to bring you some soup. Hearing that Tanghua was thinking about his family, Luo Yiqing felt indescribably complicated. At that time, the villa will be under your name. Yiqing, are you really that generous? That's what I should do. I've wronged you back then. It's just a villa. This is a small token of my appreciation. You don't lack those things, but I want to give it to you. Since you're giving it to me, then I won't stand on ceremony. Tanghua smiled and said, We've been married for more than 2 years. This is the first time I've received such a big gift. Luo Yiqing was suddenly stunned. It seemed that other than Tanghua's birthday, he couldn't remember what gifts he usually gave her. He felt even more guilty. When he was with Qian Beibei, regardless of whether he had money or not, he would do his best to buy gifts for Qian Beibei on every festival. On the other hand, Xiaoguo didn't ask for anything. He had also forgotten about these things. It was all his fault. He actually neglected so many things. The peak. Chapter 1074. The room fell into silence. Perhaps Luo Yiqing felt guilty, but she couldn't help but look up at Tanghua, who was curled up on the sofa. Seeing her smiling and playing with her phone, she felt relieved. Xiaoguo didn't care about these formalities. Why didn't he fall in love with such a good girl? If they had met first, he would have chosen to be with her without hesitation. What's wrong? Tanghua looked up and asked. Luo Yiqing quickly shook her head. Nothing. I suddenly feel that I've neglected you for all these years. Xiaoguo, thank you. Do you still need to thank me between husband and wife? But it's okay. It's only been 2 years. I can wait. Besides, you've been working hard and putting all your heart into your career. You're not like other men who think about other things. I'm already very satisfied. We're already married. Since we've chosen this path, we have to walk it. This is what we agreed on from the beginning, isn't it?
Yes.
It was what they had agreed on from the beginning. Xiaoguo had given him a chance. If he changed his mind within a week, they would get a divorce. But, under the circumstances, he didn't choose to get a divorce. He thought that he would forget Qian Beibei and spend the rest of his life with this woman called Tanghua. He overestimated himself and underestimated Beibei's importance in his heart. If he still couldn't forget Beibei after a year, with Beibei's character, she would definitely want to be with him. And he had promised Beibei. He couldn't let her down. All these years, Beibei had changed jobs frequently and always appeared in his line of sight. How could he not know that Beibei had given up everything for him and was willing to follow him all the time? If he went back on his word and Beibei said that she wouldn't marry for the rest of her life, then she definitely wouldn't marry for the rest of her life. Xiaoguo was such a good girl. She would definitely meet someone better in the future. She would live a good life. Therefore, he could only compensate Xiaoguo in other ways. He couldn't give Xiaoguo love. He could only work hard, earn money, and give her the wealth she deserved. His heart was already occupied by a woman named Qian Beibei. After thinking it through, Luo Yiqing let out a sigh of relief. This was the only way he could make it up to Xiaoguo. Seeing Luo Yiqing heave a sigh of relief and begin to eat, Tanghua lowered her head and smiled. Very good. The system shuddered. It didn't feel too good. This Luo Yiqing. Is there something wrong with his brain? He doesn't want such a perfect wife and insists on being entangled with that Qian Beibei. As a system, he really couldn't understand. Had the man's brain been gnawed by zombies? Why was it so strange, always choosing some laughable results? Fortunately, his host was a smart person. She could play him to death with her fingers. Within 2 days, Tanghua informed Mother Luo and Sister Luo that Luo Yiqing was preparing to buy a big villa. She even told them that they would live together in the future and asked them to come and take a look. When the two of them heard this, they were very happy. Luo Yiqing didn't even inform them, but Tanghua did. It was clear that their daughter-in-law and sister-in-law knew how to conduct themselves. Luo Yiqing also told the two of them that the villa would be under Tanghua's name. He wanted to make it clear first, afraid that the two of them would have objections. Unexpectedly, Mother Luo said first, it should be under Xiaoguo's name. Yiqing, you're right to think this way. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Quick wear. Supporting female lead. Calm down claw book room 01D. Goo. Goo. Noo. Section Noo. Time free 05. Read 002. The Peak. Chapter 1075. That's right, I Ching. I heard that Xiaoguo has invested a lot of money into the company. Luo Yiqing's older sister agreed. They did not think that it would be a problem for the company to be placed under Tangguo's name. It should be said that they had never thought that Luo Yiqing and Tangguo would divorce. In their eyes, they were living a good life now. In their hearts, Tangguo was very important. Basically, Mrs. Luo treated Tangguo as half a daughter. If it were not for Tangguo, would they have been able to go to upper-class social events and see the wonders of the world? Would Luo Yiqing be able to start the company smoothly? She was the daughter of a rich family and had a lot of assets under her name. Would she care about a villa? They all felt that Luo Yiqing had finally learned how to please his wife and give her gifts. Wasn't it just a villa? As long as Tangguo is happy, there will be no problem for the family to be harmonious. They also knew that when the company was first established, something had happened in the middle of the night. The company had called Tangguo and asked her to come over. This rich young lady was not only rich, but also capable. The Luo family had taken advantage of her. When Luo Yiqing saw that both of them agreed, he was relieved. He did not dare to show that he wanted to buy a villa for Tangguo. He did not want to show his intention for the time being. If his mother and older sister knew what he was thinking, they would go crazy. Hence, the family happily went to buy a villa. After a week, they finally saw a villa that they were satisfied with. After some discussion, they bought it and put it under Tangguo's name. After that, the family was busy with moving. "Mom, sister, you can pick a room first," Tangguo said with a smile. Mother Luo hurriedly shook her head. "You should do it. Xiaoguo, it's really too much for you to follow our I Ching. Now that I Ching has finally achieved something, you should be the first to choose this room." "That's right. Xiaoguo, you should go first. You're the biggest contributor to our family. Since you said so, I won't hold back." Actually, there were quite a few rooms in the villa, and the locations were all pretty good. Tangguo chose a room with a good view outside, and chose the room that Mother Luo had taken a fancy to from the very beginning. The family happily moved into the villa. Suddenly, one day, Mrs. Luo thought of something. She looked at Tangguo and asked, "Xiaoguo, now that everything is changed for the better, you and I Ching are going to have a child, right?" She didn't mention it before because Luo Yiqing's career was on the rise, and Tangguo was also very busy. She thought that working hard for her career was the most important. Mother Luo wasn't the kind of old lady who thought that children were everything. Back then, her husband had died early, and it was all thanks to the relief of the villagers that she was able to raise Luo Yiqing and the Luo family's eldest sister. She even sold out Luo Yiqing. Although the bitterness was over and the sweetness was just around the corner, she still felt sad when she thought of the hardships she had suffered in the past. If their conditions had been better back then, how could they have suffered so much? Therefore, she didn't object at all. Young people should work hard for their careers first, and they could have children after their careers were stable. At that time, it wouldn't take much time. After they had the ability and money, raising a child would definitely not be so difficult. Now that everything was fine, she had a change of heart. Tangguo was only 27 years old this year, and Luo Yiqing was a little older than her. Now was the best time to have a child. I Ching seems to be very busy. There's a very important project in the company recently, so I'm afraid it won't be possible, Tangguo said. Whenever someone in the village who was willing to work and study came to Luo Yiqing for help, Luo Yiqing would feel embarrassed. However, as soon as Tangguo appeared, she would always solve the problem perfectly. Therefore, everyone in the village betrayed them and treated Tangguo better than Luo Yiqing. Madam Host, Luo Yiqing and Qianbei are interacting more and more frequently. The system also glanced at the photos sent by Gu Yi and felt speechless. Ever since Luo Yiqing figured out how to make it up to Tangguo and realized that she could not forget Qianbei, she no longer refused to interact with Qianbei. However, The two of them still maintained a certain distance between each other. Occasionally, they would look at each other and look up. Only they would understand the feelings between each other. That's good. I don't want to have a child. Baigio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Fastware. Supporting female lead. Calm Down Claw Bookroom O1D. Geo, 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 Geo. Section NO. Time Free. O5. Read 002. The Peak. Chapter 1077. Host. I'm afraid you've forgotten that you can't use these bodies to give birth to children. Its intuition told it that this was because its host had an extraordinary background. Under normal circumstances, it was not easy for powerful people to have descendants. Many almighties had lived for tens of thousands of years, but they did not have a single person who was related by blood. When did its memory have such a thing? The system was confused for a moment, but it quickly reacted. It had remembered something again, but it was not too important. It should not be of any use to its host. Mother Luo lived happily every day, and so did Sister Luo. They had also made new friends and would occasionally invite them to the villa to play. When facing these friends, Tangguo would ask the helpers to prepare everything. The two of them talked about how good Tangguo was to everyone they met. Everyone smiled and nodded. Of course, they knew how good the family Tang's daughter was, and they were very envious. In their circle, they had never seen a family as harmonious as the Luo family. Time passed quickly, and a year passed in the blink of an eye. Guyi looked at the photos and videos of the couple who had not broken through the boundaries. He rubbed his head hard. He had gone crazy from waiting. The two of them had actually spent a year flirting with each other. Lawyer Gu, it seems that they don't really plan to be together. Tangwa said with a smile. So, this marriage is really not easy to divorce. Miss Tang, don't worry. I think they won't be able to break through soon. After all, they are a man and a woman who love each other very much. Even if they could break through now, there would be a day when they would not be able to break through. Tangwa lowered her head and smiled. Guyi was right. The reason why the two of them still maintained the boundaries on the surface. It was just a little short of the 3 years they had agreed on. When the 3 years were up, even if Luo Yiqing did not do anything, Qian Beibei would make a move. Luo Yiqing was a man who could not refuse Qian Beibei. A woman he did not get would always be in turmoil. He always felt that he owed Qian Beibei and regretted his impulse back then. Because of Qian Beibei's pitiful state, he had pushed all the blame for the wedding to Niu Jinlan and Qian Chengche. Lawyer Gu, I'm very curious. Guyi said seriously. Miss Tang, what are you curious about? Is there anything you want me to answer for you? I'd love to. Lawyer Gu, aren't you being too concerned about my divorce? Lawyer Gu, did you stay by her side every day and instigate her to get a divorce in order to make money? Tangwa snorted. No wonder Lawyer Gu is notorious in the industry. Guyi could no longer maintain his composure. He did not care about his reputation as long as he could earn money. Moreover, he really didn't do anything immoral. For example, he had never done anything like breaking up someone's marriage. He was only trying to get a divorce because the other party had long wanted to. Miss Tang, I want to say that this is a misunderstanding. Actually, rumors can't be trusted. My character is not as bad as the rumors say. There's no smoke without fire. That's what everyone says. Guyi was a little helpless. What should he do? His future wife was doubting his character. What could he do? He could not tell the truth. As a careful lawyer, he could not let anyone have something against him. Suddenly, Guye's eyes lit up and a smile appeared on his handsome face. He whispered to Tangua, "There's a reason why I'm in such a hurry. This reason is definitely not to make money or anything." Chapter 1078. Actually, I don't love money that much. System. This doesn't sound very believable. It would be strange if this stingy person didn't love money. Oh, I wonder why Lawyer Gu wants to divorce me every day. Tangwa smiled as she picked up her coffee cup and took a sip. I really want to know. Hearing Tangwa say that she really wanted to know, Gui almost blurted out, of course, We can only get married after you get divorced. The words were about to come out of his mouth, but he swallowed them back. His expression became very serious, as if he was a messenger of justice sent by God. Miss Tang, you are so young and outstanding. I don't think you should waste your youth because of Luo Yicheng. I think you should have a better life. A good person like you deserves someone better. Luo Yicheng doesn't love you. If you continue to be with him, it will be a complete waste of time. Why don't you find someone who will only love you wholeheartedly? Miss Tang, why don't you take a look outside? There are still many good men in this world. For example, him. Oh, so Lawyer Gu is feeling sorry for me? Tangwa raised her eyes slightly. It was a very ordinary expression, but it made Gu Yi want to go crazy. He couldn't take it anymore. If she asked him a few more questions, he wouldn't be able to resist revealing all his secrets. He wouldn't even be able to hide the fact that he had wet the bed when he was young. Gu Yi shifted his gaze away. This woman was truly mesmerizing. He was really curious. Luo Yicheng was not moved by this woman even though he faced her every day. If it were him, he would have washed himself clean and lay flat on the bed. If she didn't move, he would move. Of course, Miss Tang is young and beautiful. You are a talented and beautiful woman. You shouldn't waste your youth with a scumbag. If she wanted to marry someone, she should marry a good man like him. He would hold her in his hands and take good care of her. Lawyer Gu is really good with words. Gu Yi smiled. I'm telling the truth. Actually, I know that I'm very outstanding, Tangwa said. You really shouldn't waste time on men. Men are really boring creatures. Gu Yi could barely maintain the smile on his face. Would Tangwa stop believing in love and be unwilling to date because of Luo Yicheng? Miss Tang, scum like Luo Yicheng doesn't represent everything. Tangwa glanced at him, but he represents most of them. Lawyer Gu is in this line of work, so he must know a lot of secrets about certain people in this circle, right? Many rich men had a few women around them, but there were only a few who were clean. Instead of wasting time and money on choosing men, it's better to hire 2 bodyguards to travel around the world. Gu Yi felt bitter in his heart. Wasn't he the one who was very clean? He was already 30 years old, but he was still clean and had not been involved with any woman. After falling in love with the woman in front of him at first sight, he could no longer maintain his principles. In the past, money was the most important thing. Now, his wife was more important than money. In order to coax his wife, he had lost a lot of money. Now, his future wife looked as if she had lost interest in love. What was he supposed to do? The system was already laughing like crazy. Dear host, you've ruined your big baby. Look at Gu Ye's pained expression. TSK. He was really pitiful, but why did it feel a little good? Could it be that the dear host had also led him astray? Chapter 1079. Gu Yi returned to the office with a sullen face after failing to poach them. When the people in the studio saw their boss's unhappy face, they did not dare to provoke him at all. If the other bosses were unhappy, they would definitely deduct their wages and force them to work overtime so that they could go home later. Gu Yi was different. Although he was stingy, he did not deduct their wages. But the punishment for them was even worse than having their wages deducted. Once this stingy boss was in a bad mood, he would crazily take on cases for them. They were all difficult cases that were very profitable. That's right, he did not deduct their wages, but he wanted them to earn more money back. Gu Yi took out his cell phone and said in a slightly cold voice, "Keep a close eye on Luo Yicheng. If there's any evidence, get it immediately. Don't miss a single thing. Don't miss a single thing. Do you understand?" Understood, boss. Gu Yi narrowed his eyes. Their 3-year agreement is almost up. Send someone to keep an eye on Qian Beibei. I feel that if we want to get some evidence this time, we should start with her. That woman in Qian Beibei was very infatuated with Luo Yicheng. He really did not know how a good-for-nothing like Luo Yicheng, who was not even as handsome as him, who was not as good at pulling in business and making money as him, could attract so many women. The employees in the studio all lowered their heads and typed seriously. They did not dare to look around. When they saw Gu Yi staring at his cell phone with a smile on his face, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Ever since 2 years ago, Their boss had been very strange. Originally, their boss had been thinking about how to pull in business every day. The people who were eyeing him were all rich people. In short, he would personally handle all the cases that were very profitable and difficult to handle. But since 2 years ago, their boss had changed. He became a little lazy and often stared at his cell phone with a silly smile. When there was an important and profitable case, he actually intended to let them handle it. He vaguely had the intention of giving them some power. If they did not take on the case, they would be scolded. They were happy and in pain. They were making money, but they were also curious about what had happened to Mr. Gu. The boss stared at his phone and smiled foolishly. It seemed like he often received messages or something. They already had a guess. Their boss might have fallen in love with someone online. They didn't know which underage girl had attracted their boss. If it wasn't an online relationship, why would she be smiling foolishly at her phone? She had never seen the real person appear. Gui did not know about this. He scrolled through his phone and saw that it was filled with photos of Tanghua. There were photos from all angles. Of course, they were all in public. He was a man of principles. Even if he secretly took photos, he would not anger his future wife. Looking at the beautiful woman in the photo, Gui wondered what it would be like after they got married. But when he thought of Tanghua's unwillingness to fall in love, he was a little angry and wanted to beat Luo Yiqing. Unfortunately, there was nothing wrong with Luo Yiqing except for Qian Beibei. He had dug up a lot of information about her since she was a child. Indeed, he could not find any fault with her. This made him very angry. Gui did not have to wait for long in Qian Beibei. There was still half a month before the 3-year agreement. Qian Beibei received news of a class reunion. Of course, Luo Yiqing also received the news. Both of them expressed that they wanted to attend. Because of this, Qian Beibei even looked for Luo Yiqing and asked her a question. Fastware, supporting female lead, calm down Claw Book Room 01D, Goo, 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 Section No, Time Free 05, Reading 002, The Peak. Chapter 1080. I'll be bringing my family to the class reunion this time. Yiqing, do you want to bring Tanghua along? Qian Beibei asked. Luo Yiqing fell silent. Looking at Qian Beibei, she shook her head and said, I don't think so. There was only half a month left. He was very sure that he couldn't forget Qian Beibei in just half a month. Once the deadline was up, he was ready to lay his cards on the table with Tanghua. Tanghua was a gentle and kind girl. She should be able to understand him. He had already tried very hard to forget Qian Beibei in 3 years, but he couldn't do it. He really couldn't do it, so he couldn't continue to be with Tanghua. He couldn't accept Tanghua, and he couldn't forget Qian Beibei. Continuing this marriage wasn't good for either of them. Xiaoguo was still young. She could find someone better. They really weren't fated to be together. Qian Beibei heaved a sigh of relief and said, Yiqing, there's only half a month left. It'll be the end of the 3 years. Yiqing, my heart, eyes, and mind are all about you. I can't forget you. 1 ton. 1 ton and 1 t/I, Yiqing, in another half a month. I can finally hug you openly. You can finally come back to my side, right? You haven't forgotten me, have you? You can't forget me either. Qian Beibei's face was covered in tears as she spoke. Luo Yiqing's heart ached. She walked up to Qian Beibei and hugged her. The two hugged for the first time in 3 years. The moment Qian Beibei was hugged, she burst into tears. Yiqing, I knew it. I knew you couldn't forget me. I've been restraining myself because you're married. I'm waiting for our promise. Yiqing, do you know? There are many times when I want to hug you. Ever since we separated, I've been so lonely every day. It's like the whole world has abandoned me and I've lost something. You might not understand. Without you, I feel like the sky is dark. Yiqing, I miss you so much. Yiqing, let's get back together, okay? Luo Yiqing couldn't refuse this woman. Listening to her grievances, she only felt pity in her heart. At this time, he had forgotten many things. Everything about this woman had already filled his heart. He hugged her and whispered, Give me some time. All right, I'll wait for you. I've already waited for 3 years. I'm not afraid to wait another 3 years, as long as you're willing to be with me. Qian Beibei was laughing and crying at the same time. You should have a good talk with Tanghua. She's so outstanding. She'll definitely find someone suitable for her. I will. Speaking of Tanghua, Luo Yiqing's heart sank. But when he thought about how Qian Beibei was willing to spend the most precious 3 years waiting for him, hoping for him, he also loved her. Therefore, this time, they couldn't miss out on each other again. He couldn't lie to his heart and say that he didn't love Qian Beibei. He also couldn't lie to himself and say that he could spend the rest of his life with Tanghua, no matter how good she was. Then you're really not going to bring her to the class reunion this time, right? No, I'll take care of all these. Beibei, we won't miss out on each other again this time. Yes, I believe in you. Yiqing, this time, no matter what, I'll stand by your side. I won't be as foolish as I was before. The two of them kept hugging and whispering sweet nothings to each other. Miss Tang, what do you think of this? Guyi smiled happily and glanced proudly at Luo Yiqing in the video. This kind of man really doesn't deserve Miss Tang. I really feel sorry for Miss Tang. So, my wife, come into my arms quickly. He can comfort you. Fastware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Book Room 01D, Gu, Su, Section No. Time is free. Reading 002, time is free. Reading 002, peak. Chapter 1081. This situation can be used as preliminary evidence. Tanghua's calm voice extinguished Gu Ye's excitement. Wasn't it enough? Tanghua continued, Lawyer Gu, do you think this can be used as evidence of their affair? They just hugged and said a few words. Nothing happened. It's useless. It won't work. That was true. Guyi fell into distress. These two people who loved each other were the most reserved he had ever seen. They liked each other so much, but they endured it for a year. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to endure it for even a day. System, you've endured for 3 years. I'm afraid you've forgotten. It's over. It's over. This guy's memory has deteriorated after being toyed with by his great host. Miss Tang, don't worry. I'll definitely find the most important evidence. I guarantee that they won't be able to explain themselves. I believe in Lawyer Gu. Lawyer Gu works seriously and is especially patient. Guyi smiled bitterly. Yes, he was really very patient. He was helping his future wife catch the adulterers, but there was no result after 3 years. His expression was calm, but in reality, he was thinking about how his mother would punish him. These two people were really too principled. Guyi soon calmed down. It was said that the most important thing at a class reunion was to have something happen. Perhaps the heavens would grant his wish. These two people drank too much and couldn't help but think about it. Then, wouldn't he have evidence? Guyi sat at the side and silently calculated. That calculating look of his was really a waste of that expensive suit and that good-looking face. Tanghua leaned against the sofa and leisurely drank her coffee. She watched the scene in the video where the man and woman were inseparable. They were still saying, "You miss me, I miss you, I love you, I love you." They couldn't bear it apart, and in the end, they couldn't help but kiss. Guyi observed Tanghua's expression. He saw that she was smiling and didn't look angry at all. His heart relaxed slightly. If she wasn't angry, it meant that she didn't care about Luo Yiqing at all. Gu Ye's mood improved inexplicably. Why was Luo Yiqing showing off? She had never won his heart. Her heart could only belong to him. Tanghua glanced at the man who seemed to be scheming something. She chuckled and stood up. Lawyer Gu, I'm leaving. Are you not going to sit for a while? The coffee here is really good. No need. Guyi was a little disappointed, but he soon perked up. When it came to wooing a wife, one must persevere and not give up easily. He had been working hard for 3 years and was about to succeed. After watching his future wife leave, he hurriedly prepared to monitor Luo Yiqing's classmate gathering. This gathering was of the utmost importance, and there was definitely going to be a good show. His experience told him that at every class reunion, there would always be something to dig out. In the evening, Luo Yiqing came back and told Tangwa about the class reunion. It's our class reunion. Is that so? Do you want me to go with you? No, it's just a gathering of people from our class. It's actually not that interesting. You know that class reunions are nothing more than those boring little games. Otherwise, it's just competition and not fawning. I don't think you'll like that kind of scene too much. Tangwa smiled and nodded. Yes, I really don't like this kind of occasion. By the way, when is it? This weekend, we might play until very late. You don't have to save food for me at home. Aunt Sue doesn't have to wait either. Let her rest early. Baigio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Quick Wear. Supporting female lead. Calm Down Claw Book Room O1D. Gu. Noo. Excerpt. Noo. Time Free 05. Reading 002. Peak. Chapter 1082. Ever since they moved to the villa, Tangwa had let Auntie Sue live in the villa as well. Auntie Sue had a good character and was serious in her work. They were all very satisfied. Besides Auntie Sue, she also hired other helpers to help clean the villa and trim the flowers and plants outside. There was also a chauffeur for Mother Luo and Sister Luo. All right, if you drink, you can ask the chauffeur to pick you up. I know. Because he had lied, Luo Yiqing still felt a little guilty. Today, he had shared his heart with Qian Beibei. He had already decided that he would not miss out on Beibei in this lifetime. He would find a good opportunity to lay his cards on the table with Tangwa. When the time came, he would accept whatever she wanted. He only hoped that she would let him and Beibei be together. Beibei had waited for him for so many years under the pressure of her family. It was really not easy. On the weekend, Luo Yiqing went to a class reunion. When Mother Luo saw Luo Yiqing dressed up, she was a little curious. What kind of cocktail party is there? Why didn't you bring Xiaoguo? Yes, Yiqing, you have to bring Xiaoguo no matter what. Sister Luo also habitually said, your wife is so beautiful. It's a waste if you don't bring her out. Now, her man really liked to take her out. In front of everyone, she was very proud. Although her man was a little old and not that good-looking, it was good that all his thoughts were on her. He was controlled by her and only treated her well. It's not a cocktail party, it's a class reunion. You also know that most of the people at class reunions are showing off and competing. How can I bring Xiaoguo? The games they play are more boring. Xiaoguo doesn't need to go. I see. Sister Luo also attended her high school class reunion and agreed. Then it's better not to go. Go early and come back early. Don't drink too much. They did not even remind Luo Yiqing not to be seduced by some little vixen, because they all believed that with Tangwa's existence, it was impossible for such a little vixen to exist. Tangwa was so good. Which woman could compare to her? Luo Yiqing would have to be blind to fall in love with someone else. After Luo Yiqing left, Tangwa looked at the two of them and felt a little bored. She said, Mom, big sister, there's a new movie coming out recently. Do you want to watch it? Is it nice? What type is it? It's a joke. Let's go take a look then. Tangwa accompanied the two of them to the cinema. Along the way, she received a message from Guyi informing her that his men had arrived. No matter what happened to Luo Yiqing at the class reunion, it would be broadcasted to her. Big sister Luo saw Tangwa laughing and couldn't help but ask, What are you laughing at? Did you see some good news? I saw a joke. Big sister Luo did not pay attention to it. Tangwa collected the tickets, and the three of them entered the cinema. Not long after, Tangwa said to Mother Luo, Mom, I have something to do here. You and big sister can watch the movie first. After you're done, go wherever you want to go and have fun. When you get home, ask the driver to pick you up in advance. They all knew that Tangwa was very busy, so they did not suspect anything at all. Their attention was also attracted by the movie. They only nodded vaguely to show that they understood. Tangwa left the cinema and went straight to a cafe not far away. When she walked into a small cubicle, Guyi was already waiting there. Lawyer Gu, did you see anything interesting? If there wasn't anything interesting, why would I ask Miss Tang to come over? He shifted his seat and gestured for Tangwa to sit down. He showed the video to Tangwa. Miss Tang, do you think this is something interesting? Chapter 1083. Tangwa looked at the screen on her phone. Gui pressed play. On the screen, Luo Yiqing and Qian Beibei were sitting a little further away. The place was dimly lit and looked like a bar. There were a few women sitting beside Qian Beibei. They were talking to Qian Beibei. One of the women handed Qian Beibei a drink. The problem was with the drink. The angle of the video was very tricky. It was clearly a very subtle action of the woman, but it was captured on camera. Is it interesting, Miss Tang? Did Qian Beibei drink it? Yes, she did. Gui smiled and said, that woman had a good relationship with Qian Beibei when she was in university, at least on the surface. In front of so many people, she wouldn't have thought that someone would drug her. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. Who did it? A secret admirer of Qian Beibei. He came back a while ago. Didn't he hear that Qian Beibei and Luo Yiqing were not married? 1 ton. 1 ton and 1 t/I. Then, Gui leaned over and said in a low voice, he went to pursue Qian Beibei, but he didn't succeed. In the end, Qian Beibei was annoyed by him and said a lot of harsh words to him. He didn't want to take it lying down, so he decided to do something interesting at the class reunion. I don't think he will succeed. Gu Ye's smile was a little sly. If Luo Yiqing wasn't here, he might have succeeded. With Luo Yiqing here, that person won't succeed. But if he doesn't succeed, then Luo Yiqing will. He didn't need to say anything else. Everyone understood. Gui also didn't expect that the man who had a secret crush on Qian Beibei would suddenly appear and become a godly assistant. Actually, he was a little curious. He used to dig up secrets and help people with cases. She really hadn't met anyone like Luo Yiqing and Qian Beibei. It seemed that no matter what they did, they would easily get involved. They would always accidentally bump into each other and accidentally discover Qian Beibei's pitiful side. At first, he thought that Qian Beibei was scheming and that everything was part of her plan. Later on, he found out that it was really a coincidence. It was really strange. All the coincidences in the world were probably happening to these two people. Tangwa didn't think that Luo Yiqing was wrong at all. They were the protagonists. God would definitely find a way to bring them together. What they were watching now was the live broadcast of the bar, not the video they had just recorded. Miss Tang, what would you like to drink or eat? I'll have an ice cream. Gui was a little surprised. He didn't expect this beautiful woman to like ice cream. He was a little happy. Women who liked sweets seemed to be even more adorable. Wait a moment. I'll buy it for you. Gui placed his bag on the seat. I'll leave my things to you. Okay. Tangwa propped her chin up and looked at Gui. I won't be responsible if it goes missing. It's okay. The bag isn't important, as long as Miss Tang is still here, Gui said and quickly left. Was the bag more important than his wife? If his wife was willing to marry him immediately, he would even throw 10 bags at her. Host, this guy is very glib. Be careful not to be deceived. The system was a little jealous. This guy really attracted its great host all the time. Now, he was definitely not the most important system in its great host's heart. Chapter 1084. So far, he hasn't lied to me. This guy is very stingy. Host, when you get divorced in the future, you have to think carefully before choosing a partner. This man is really stingy. The system continued to instigate. If it didn't, his position as the #1 system would be gone. Of course, he had no intention of chasing this man away. He just wanted his host to understand that he was the most loyal and caring system that would follow her forever. Host, I am the system that you trust the most. Tangwa couldn't help but laugh. She was wondering why this system was so talkative today. It turned out that it was afraid of losing favor. Tongzi, you're becoming more and more like a human. You're actually jealous of a human. I'm just reminding you that I'm the most loyal to my host. The system was a little embarrassed. I'm just afraid that my host will fall too deeply. If she recovers her memory in the future and that guy turns out to be a bad person, wouldn't my host be sad? This was the truth. Her host was very absolute in everything she did, even if she would leave a way out for others. But after so many worlds, even if she knew the outcome, she never looked back. In her host's eyes, if she liked someone, she liked them. If she didn't like them, she didn't like them. Once she liked them, she would like them with all her might. This kind of person was very emotional and heartless. It was especially easy for her to get hurt. You're thinking too much. I'm already prepared. Don't worry, Tongzi. If you're worried about me, why don't you consider whether you're going to fall in love with a female system or swallow her up the next time you meet her? Swallow her up. It's so troublesome to fall in love. The system said without thinking. Do systems have gender differences? Tanghua asked in surprise. Tongzi, don't you have a gender? No, I'm a male system. The system quickly said. But I think that all systems should be male. Tanghua didn't know how the system came to this conclusion, but she didn't ask further because Guyi had already returned. He was holding a big bowl of ice cream in his hand. When he placed the ice cream in front of Tanghua with a smile on his face, Tanghua was stunned for a moment. What's wrong? Miss Tang, you don't like it? Guyi was a little nervous. I just thought that all of them looked good, so I bought some of each. If you don't like it, I can go back and change it for you. No, it's pretty good. Tanghua picked up the spoon and took a bite. Lawyer Gu really knows me well. I like to eat ice cream like this. There are many flavors in a bowl. It's especially delicious. Guyi heaved a sigh of relief. He hadn't thought too much about it when he made the purchase. At first, he was prepared to buy one of them, but when he saw the ice cream in the bucket, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. His intuition told him that he had to buy all of them. It was not until he placed the ice cream in front of Tanghua that he realized he had done something not very serious. Unexpectedly, she liked it very much. From her expression, he could believe that she was not lying. When she ate the ice cream, her beautiful face was full of smiles. Guyi drank the water and felt a little satisfied. Now, he finally knew one of his future wife's hobbies. Or, he could enroll in a class to learn how to make ice cream. In the future, he could make ice cream whenever his wife wanted to eat it. Thinking about that kind of life, he couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 1085. Miss Tang, look, something's happening. Guyi pointed at the screen of his phone, and Tanghua leaned over to take a look. Sure enough, not long after Qian Bebe drank the drink, she started to feel dizzy. The man who had a crush on Qian Bebe appeared by her side in time and held her. Bebe, are you feeling unwell? Shall I take you back to rest? The man said with concern. Qian Bebe struggled and shook her head, but her gaze looked towards Luo Yiqing's position. Because Luo Yiqing was now the big boss, the students were busy trying to curry favor with him. Although the two of them had already expressed their feelings, Luo Yiqing was not divorced yet, so they did not dare to be too obvious. If they were too obvious and word got out, it would not be good, even if they had been in love for 9 years. No, thank you. Qian Bebe knew the man's thoughts, but she only liked Luo Yiqing. Soon, she and Yiqing would be together again. How could she be involved with someone else? Bebe, don't tell me you still haven't forgotten Luo Yiqing? The man's expression was a little ugly. He has already married the daughter of a rich family and is now the big boss of a company. It's impossible for the two of you. Bebe, can't you look at me? I'm sorry, I don't want to think about this now. Qian Bebe saw that Luo Yiqing could not walk away and was feeling a little unwell. At this time, she could not call Luo Yiqing. It would not be good if something was discovered. Forget it. I'll take you back to rest first. We'll talk about our matter later, okay? This man, whether it was in school or later, was more gentlemanly and had never shown his rude and impolite side. Qian Bebe thought that he really liked her and cared about her, so she nodded and agreed. She did not see the flash of light in this man's eyes. Being helped out of the bar, Qian Bebe was basically unconscious. However, she still understood that she couldn't sleep at this time. The moment the man brought her into the car, she felt a little regretful. Fortunately, this man was really polite and did not do anything to her. In a trance, Qian Bebe felt that something was wrong. She suddenly opened her eyes and found herself lying on a bed. She tried to get up, but all her strength seemed to have left her. She finally felt that something was wrong, and the man's voice rang in her ears. Bebe, You're awake? Where is this? This is not my home. Where did you take me? Qian Beibei's face was pale. She realized that she had trusted the wrong person and should not have left with this man. If she had been sober, she definitely wouldn't have left with this man. At that time, her mind was very muddled. Whatever the other party said, she vaguely agreed. She had no intention of resisting at all. Now that she had no strength in her body, how could she not understand that she had been drugged? Bei, I've pursued you for so many years, but you've never looked at me. The man squatted by the bed and touched Qian Beibei's beautiful little face. When I came back this time, I heard that you weren't with Luo Yicheng. He married a rich family's daughter. I thought I could finally pursue you. I didn't expect that you still couldn't forget Luo Yicheng. You've never seen the good in me. Bei, I can't wait anymore. Since I can't get your heart and you don't like me, then I'll get your body. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.